Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Can everybody hear me? My thing on?
It's on.
Is it?
Yeah, the red light's on.
Okay. All right. Okay, so if we could all stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Peter.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
All right, Madam Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Jamie Girardi.
Here.
Mr. Derek Montliff.
Here.
Mr. Peter Hansel.
Here.
Mr. John Moody.
Here.
Mr. Christopher Poole.
Here.
Mr. Chris Williams.
Here.
And Chairman Charles Griff.
Here. And could we have proof of publication, please?
The items were advertised in the Tampa Bay Times on December 21st, 2022, January 4th, 2023, and February 1st, 2023, or by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings.
All right, thank you very much. And we have a minutes to approve, I believe. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from December 8th, 2022. Second.
And a second? Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay, the motion carries. I'd like to welcome everybody today that's here for our meeting. For those of you who haven't been to these meetings before, I'll give you a brief overview of what's going to be happening and in what order. We're the Planning Commission, and we're appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. We meet twice monthly. We serve as a local planning agency, and we hold the public hearings and transmit to the Board of County Commissioners recommendations on comprehensive plan amendments, land development code amendments, rezonings, and conditional use requests. The Planning Commission is the final decision-making body for special exceptions, certain appeals, variance requests, and certain alternative standard requests. However, final decisions may be appealed to the Board of County Commissioners. If anyone is in opposition to any comprehensive plan amendment, land development code amendment, rezoning, conditional use, or any item where the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, it's important for you to attend the appropriate Board of County Commissioner meeting. For those of you who are not familiar with the format of the meeting, they are as follows. We have three sections. We have continuances, we have consent agenda, and we have regular items. And we'll go through those one at a time. On continuances, it's been our custom to approve. It's usually from either the staff or the applicant. It's been our custom to approve a request for continuance unless there are extenuating circumstances. Then we have consent agendas, and that's where those are items where we have not received objections or questions from the public or anybody outside the applicant that might have an objection to it. We'll go through those one at a time, and as we read through the consent agenda, if there's something on there that somebody here would like to have heard, please raise your hand, and we'll pull it from the consent agenda for discussion. It'll go on the regular items, and that's the final section, and those are items that we will go through one at a time, and hear testimony from the applicant and from the questioners. Applicants will typically have 3 minutes to make their presentation, and then questioners will have 3 minutes to ask their questions per person, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to come back up and respond, and they'll have 5 minutes to do that unless they've requested additional time in advance of this meeting. I don't think I've had any requests. Have I?
Mr. Chair, no request for additional time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so By the way, I'll mention to you that this is probably a good time for any of those, anyone here who has a device like a phone that might ring, put it on silent, please, so that somebody's up here speaking or talking, asking questions, that they're not interrupted. And before we start the regular meeting, is there anybody here that is here to speak on something that is not on today's agenda? Anybody speak on something not on the agenda? Okay, I see no one. No one's online?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So if you plan to give testimony, which means if you're going to come up and speak today, this would be the time I'd need you to stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn. Anyone who speaks needs to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
This gentleman over here seemed hesitant. Were you not going to tell the truth or the whole truth? Part of the truth? I just want to make sure you were participating. That's yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted you to know we noticed. Okay.
Right. Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members, Denise
Carry on.
Hernandez,
Yep.
Planning and Development. First item is PC2, which is PDD 230224. It's a conditional use in the name of Patricia Weber Fessmeyer, North American Towers. This is a withdrawn, so there's no action required.
Okay. Thank you.
Following item is item PC3, PDD 237643, Connerton Village 1 MPUD. This item was advertised for a continuance. So the continuance request is to continue to the March 2nd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Okay.
And the request comes from the applicant.
Okay. And the applicant is here or no?
The applicant is not virtually present that I'm aware of. I did not see the applicant in the audience, but
Okay.
the applicant is aware of the continuance request.
Is there anybody that came to speak on this particular application? I see no one. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the request for continuance?
Continued.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay,
Following item is PC4. That's PDD 237648. It's a zoning amendment. State Route 54 Black Lake MPUD Master Plan Unit Development. BMP Properties of Pasco County. It's for a rezoning from AC Agricultural District to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow the development of 135,000 square feet of commercial retail and 250 hotel rooms on approximately 33.72 acres. This item was not properly advertised, so the request is to continue the item to the March 16th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
all right, and is the applicant present? Is there anybody here came to speak on this one? See no one?
Move to continue. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if
Opposed,
I
like
may, I'm going to
sign.
go out of order because this is a companion item, because you have to have the land use in place in order to have the zoning.
Okay.
So the companion item to this item was properly advertised, but we want them to track together. So PC7, which is PDD 230216, small scale comprehensive plan amendment from Res 3, residential 3 dwelling units per gross acre to PD. This item also is a request to continue it to the 3/16/23 local planning agency meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Okay.
Move to continue item PC7.
Do you want to call for public comment? I'm sorry, just in case.
Well, I didn't see any on the last one, but I'll go ahead and call for it.
Thank you.
Any comment on this one? See none?
I'll
And I-
second.
And I do want to mention, I apologize, that there is no one signed up to speak on these items other than the applicants for the items on WebEx.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and I'm going to move on to the next and the last continuance item, which is in your addendum. It's APC 9. That one was actually advertised for a continuance. It's PDD 230012, CPAL 2208 for 52 Groves. It's a request to continue the item to the March 2nd, 2023 local planning agency meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Okay. Is anyone here to speak on this one? See no one?
Move to continue APC 9 to March 2nd in Dade City. I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign.
Okay, and now we're going to move back on to PC 5,
Okay.
which is PDD 237685. It's a zoning amendment in the names of Jimmy and Mary Unagis for a change in zoning from an R4 high-density residential district to an AR agricultural residential district. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
All right.
And the applicant is virtually present.
Okay. Anyone here to object or speak on this one? See no one. Is that the only consent item?
Yes, because the next item will be pulled because there was a letter of objection received, which is PC 6. That one will be pulled from your consent.
Okay.
And APC 10, which is also on your consent, will be pulled because there's someone on here to speak on the item. So that's your one and only consent item.
Okay, let's go ahead and get that one approved.
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
two motions in 2 seconds.
At the same time?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to PC 6.
Okay.
Liam Devine, Planning and Development. Good afternoon. Item PC 6, PDD 23-CU09, in the name of Nikki Clemente and Michael Ruttman. It is a conditional use for vacation rental / short-term rental in a R4 high-density residential district. The subject site is located on the west side of Birch Street, approximately 600 feet north of Port Hudson Boulevard. Here is an aerial view of the subject site. The surrounding future land use on all sides is Res 6. The surrounding zoning is all R4. The subject site contains a single-family dwelling that was built in 2020 on approximately 0.11 of an acre. On August 1st, 2022, the property owner received an ordinance violation warning notice for operating a vacation rental / short-term rental without prior approval. Vacation rentals are defined as dwelling units that have been advertised as available for more than 3 times per year for a period of fewer than 30 days at a time. And in accordance with the LDC section 402.5B, the subject application was accompanied by a petition in favor of a minimum of 51% of the Gulf Shores First Edition, as required by the Land Development Code. The surrounding area is characterized by the Gulf Shores subdivision and consisting of single-family dwellings on waterfront lots. And the property has a future land use classification of Res 6 under the comprehensive plan. This is coming with a recommendation for approval with conditions as provided in your agenda packet from Planning and Development Department. I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Liam?
How was the citation issued? What precipitated the citation?
Mr. Moody, what precipitated the citation is that someone called in, a neighbor called in stating that there was rental activity at the location. I did speak to Officer Tomo when we received this application. One of us contacts the officer and, interviews the officer to find out, and Officer Tomo did tell me that immediately the activity ceased and desisted.
Okay. It wasn't like a noise complaint or anything like that?
The complaint was basically that there was rental activity occurring without proper approvals.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn. Is the applicant present?
The applicant is virtually present, so we can upgrade Ms. Clemente Rutman.
All right.
Ms. Rutman, would you please state your name and address for the record and whether you've been sworn?
I lost you there for a moment. Could you please repeat the request?
Would you please state your name and address for the record and whether you've been sworn?
Nikki Clemente Rutman, and would you like my husband also to provide his information as well?
Only if he's going to speak.
Michael.
Okay, and our home address is 5 Imperial Road in Worcester, Massachusetts, and this is for 14429 Birch Street in Hudson, Florida.
Have you been sworn?
We participated in the swearing in at the beginning. I don't know
Thank
if we
you.
need to do that
That's all we
again.
needed, thank you. You could speak, provide your information if you'd like.
Yes, if you
Okay,
give us a
thank you
little
so much.
background on your property there and what you're doing and how it came to be, that would be grateful.
Sure.
We'd be grateful for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. My husband and I came to the area in 2017, and we completely enjoyed the nature that's provided in this area. We enjoy kayaking and outdoor activities. We loved that the neighborhood was quiet and on a cul-de-sac and close to, the modern conveniences. In the course of our visit to the area, we decided that this is where we would like to retire in the future when that becomes an option for us. And we chose to purchase a property with the intention of using it as our retirement home in the future. In order to make that financially feasible, we're seeking this conditional use application to be able to afford the mortgage and keep this property for our future retirement planning.
Okay. Is that it? Is that your statement?
Yes, sir.
We might have a couple of questions.
Are you able to afford your mortgage payment if it's a long-term rental?
Do you mean by like a lease?
Yes.
No. Given the current lease rate in that part of Florida, we wouldn't be able to afford the mortgage.
Okay.
When you acquired the property, were you aware of the restrictions on vacation rentals, or is that something that you found out later?
It became clear to us when we received the citation.
Okay, so up to that point, you weren't aware that there was a restriction?
No, we talked about it with our realtor. Our realtor never advised us that that was an issue. And apparently at a fault of our own, we didn't look into it further. We assumed our realtor was familiar with the area.
Yeah, that would be a normal thing to assume. Can't trust those guys,
How often are you renting the property?
We ideally would like to rent it to, quote unquote snowbirds in the winter. And for, about, I think we figured that we could probably conceivably rent it 16 weeks in addition to those monthly winter rentals. And that's basically what we figured based on, when people travel to Florida.
I think more to the question is, are you renting this thing out every weekend as, a weekend getaway? Or are you renting this a month at a time or 2 months at a time, every few months? I'm trying to get a gauge
So-
on the rental activity.
Gotcha. We want to rent it on a weekly basis. We don't want to rent it for weekends or short-term getaways.
We want to comply with the county's requirement of I think it's a 6-day, 5-night requirement. We don't want that kind of turnover in our property. It's far too disruptive to the neighborhood and damaging to our, to our asset.
Do you make use of the property yourself? So do you come down and vacation here as well?
Yes, we were actually there for the whole month of January. We had intended to be there in person, but our date got pushed to this date. And then we try to get down there as much as our work schedules can permit.
And so you would concur that if there was long-term rental of that property, that would prohibit you from being able to do that?
Yes, sir.
Liam, have the Rutmans been provided with this, I assume?
Yes, they were provided with it today.
Okay. What I'm holding up, Ms. Rutman, is the comment letter that we received. Unfortunately, we just received it on the dais as we entered the meeting. Do you have any comments on that letter?
Yes, my husband and I had a chance to review it. When we were there in January, we did speak to our neighbors to understand what the concerns were. And we did agree with them that we would, meet all of the county requirements, sticking to that 6-day, 5-night requirement, all of the noise conditions, that we would also block off Scallop Week, which seemed to be a big concern for the neighbors, that creates a lot of commotion in the neighborhood. And that we would stick to the county's requirement of two people per bedroom, which is just 8 to house just 8 people. It's a 4-bedroom house. We wouldn't allow any parties. We're also intend to follow the similar guidelines to hotels and other lodging. We wouldn't rent to anyone under the age of 25. I think some of the other concerns that were addressed were noise. So we have put up a number of signs on the property implementing quiet hours, and would continue to list that in the rental listing, as well as making it clear to anyone who communicated with us through the rental process that these quiet hours would be strictly enforced. We're also looking into a few options in terms of how we can better monitor for noise. I guess there are a few products out there on the market. We've only recently started to look at it, so we don't really have an option ready to put in place, but we're looking at how we can better address the noise concerns that the neighbors had addressed in both their letter and to us personally. Since we moved into that neighborhood or purchased a property in that neighborhood, we've been very forthcoming with our contact information. All of our neighbors have our phone numbers, both my husband and I, so that they can reach out to us with concerns. And I don't think we've ever had them reach out with any issue to date. But we were absolutely open to their comments, concerns, and willing to work with everyone. I mean, we value the neighborhood as well, and we want to preserve that.
How long were you renting the property before you were issued a citation?
Well, we owned the property. We owned one property in the neighborhood and had rented that one up until COVID started, and then basically sold that property to build the one that was built in 2022, and really only had rented it a few times before we received the citation.
Are you collecting and remitting sales tax on the rentals?
Yes, we do that through both Airbnb and VRBO. It's set up through the application to cover all of the required occupancy taxes.
Okay.
Are you aware of any other rentals on your street or in that area? Or that already have conditional use?
None that are approved.
Because I did look I did look and saw one was advertised.
Yeah, they're all over.
Yeah.
So for the record, there is no one in that subdivision nor in the adjacent subdivision that has a registered vacation rental with Pasco County.
Right.
Does Pasco County Code Enforcement review the Airbnb and VRBO websites to see if there are rentals which are not registered?
I believe that they do. However, I will say that as a former code enforcement officer myself, those are very difficult things to prove.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd say most
I'm
of
not
it.
understanding how it's difficult to prove if they've advertising it for a
Advertising is
short.
not just the only thing that you use to prove that there's an active vacation rental, because they can advertise it and no one is occupying it.
I understand.
Also, they can advertise it and they could run it for 3 months. You know, it doesn't mean they're gonna run it for 2 weeks, so, you know, I'm very familiar with vacation rentals because I handled 300 of them at one time before the county prohibited it. And the thing I found that about vacation rentals is that as soon as the county prohibited the vacation rentals and made it more difficult, the houses that were formerly highly well maintained and taken care of because people were coming here for vacation, had to be right, deteriorated, looked like it, literally like crap after about 2 years. And because they started renting to people that were there for long term, but they were also people that didn't always pay their rent, they parked trucks in the yard, they do all kinds of things that you can't do with a vacation rental. So for me, if I had a vacation rental next door to me, I'd be perfectly fine with it. Because I know they're gonna be, especially if I live in a development that doesn't have a strong HOA to take care of it. Because, you know, fortunately, I live in that kind of an area now, and I appreciate it because if someone starts parking in their yard or on the grass or doesn't maintain their property, there's a source to take care of it. But if you live in an area just in the county, I mean, Regency Park, for example, is a perfect example of what used to be a really super nice development. And you can see what's happened to it. You know, that you get some very nice homes, but you also get a lot of not so well taken care of homes. And that's because people came down here, sold their home up north, they got a good money from up north, they bought a relatively inexpensive home here, but it was a great looking little home. They lived in it until they passed away. They left it to their relatives who were up north, and their only resource was to rent it long-term to somebody that didn't take care of it, and they're never here to check on it. So, to me, having a long-term rental next to me would be scarier than having a short-term rental. Because if you're gonna have a short-term rental, you better keep it in good shape, or you're gonna have to give them a refunding their money. You know, because, I mean, we had nice homes with they all had to have swimming pools and all kinds of things. And it had a laundry service, and most of the people don't spend a lot of time there. Actually, they end up going to Disney, or they go to Tampa to Busch Gardens, or they're only there at night usually, or in this case maybe they're kayaking or whatever it might be. But I think there's a real misconception about vacation rentals, and I think the county. Personally, I think the county made a big mistake by disallowing them. You know, but we had people, most of my clients were from Switzerland and England, Germany. You know, they came over here, they bought cars, they bought clothes, now we don't have any of those people.
So, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, the county didn't really disallow them, they just required them to go through the process that it's going through today. So they're not really illegal, they just have to go through this process. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Which is an onerous process.
Which you can see is not a very good, not a very wonderful process to have to go through. So a lot of people just don't do it.
I get your point, I'm just
Yeah,
saying that
they just go.
she's trying to make her use legal, so I don't want
Right.
anybody to think that she's gonna get it done and it'll be illegal, because it will be legal if she
Yeah.
gets it done.
Right, and there are lots of illegal ones out there.
And,
know.
Mr. Chair, speaking as a financial advisor, I've often advised my clients to do exactly what Mr. Rutman and Ms. Clemente are doing. It's definitely a viable way of helping build your nest egg for your retirement, especially if you intend on
Right.
moving. And I know the winters aren't so nice up in Worcester, so
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I just wondered if she's really a Worcester person because I didn't hear any accent.
Ms. Rutman,
I parked my car.
presumably you've got a property manager too that you've engaged, correct, to turn over the property when you're, I mean, I don't see you flying back and forth every time it turns over, correct? So
No, we have
somebody's watching
we-
the house?
Yes, we have a local cleaning company who comes in and does the turnover, lets us know if there's issues that need to be addressed. They help coordinate any, contractors or things that need to be done. And we work hand in glove to make sure that, that there aren't any issues or concerns. And they're a trusted partner in this, or they will be, should we receive the approval.
Okay, thanks.
So they handle any maintenance items that might come up while during a stay or afterwards as well?
Yes, any small jobs they can handle, and then anything that might require, more skilled labor, they let us know right away. Oftentimes they come with recommendations. We actually have a good electrician already that we work with, and have worked with a few good plumbers in the past, especially in the process of having this house built. So we have those available to us should there be something bigger that they can't handle.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? All right.
We do have some folks who are here to speak.
Okay.
So if you, would you like to?
Yeah, if you
have
want to
them
come up and.
Robert Urbane is the first person. I think Liam may have something
Yeah,
to say.
sorry. Before we move to have the next person come speak, I would like to request to receive and file that letter I did provide you in the beginning. I have given a copy to the clerk's office
Move
as
to
well.
receive and file the letter provided.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Liam. Okay, for anybody who'd like to come up and ask questions or speak today, and you come up and give us your name and address, and tell us whether you've been sworn.
My name's Bob Urbane, and I live next door to the house,
Mm-hmm.
the rental house. And
Can you please provide your address for the record?
mine is 14431 Birch Street, Hudson, Florida, 34667. Okay, I live next door to this, and some people say if they live next door to one, it'd be better than a long-term rental. Well, I think a lot of people that approve of vacation rentals do not live next door to them. Because these people get rude, and they wake me up. I gotta work every day, drive to Tampa, and I got people there. Maybe a few people might rent the house, but then they bring all their local friends and they stop over there too. So you got like a bunch of people there, they get loud, they party, they come all times in the night. I remember not too long ago, before they got shut down, some people come in, unload boats at 2:30 in the morning, shining their headlights at my house, at my bedroom window, and banging around unloading boats. They don't have any respect for the neighbors. They're there, they spend a lot of money, and they want to unwind for a week, and they do, and we got to deal with it. And they say they're running this to be able to afford it, so sometime down the road, they're going to come here and live full-time. When is that? And it's supposed to be me that's supposed to have the shortcomings of this because they're trying to pay for their property. I know when I was making, payments on my house, I didn't affect any neighbors doing it, and other things happen there. Before they had that house built, the house right next door, they were renting that. And that was a never-ending, every weekend, just nonstop. And it gets to you. You got to get up and go to work, and you lose sleep. Time's up.
No, you got another minute.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just don't approve it, because I live next door to it, and if they're allowed to do it, there's other houses on the block that are on the other side of me, another big vacation rental. What's going to stop them for trying to get a variance too? And then,
Anybody can ask for a variance. It doesn't mean they'll get the variance, but how many complaints have you had to file there?
I've called the county years before.
Oh, I'm
and they
talking
said
of
there's nothing
recently.
I can do. So last year, they decided, the county decided to regulate it. So after the scalp season, it was a mess. There's 25 people between both houses. I got pictures of my situation and everything.
You have to, are you gonna give us those? We have to make a motion to accept them.
See,
No.
where my house is.
Do I have a motion? Are you gonna leave us those?
Yeah, I got 2 copies of
Okay.
all
To
this.
receive and file the applicant's photographs?
Would you give them to the clerk over there, and she can pass them
I'm
around?
sorry, I don't know how this.
That's all right, no problem,
Kind of-
no problem.
Yeah, this is just photographs of my situation, where I live, and.
And she'll pass them down the line, so she's sharing, but she has to keep a record of them.
Sir, are you saying that,
Just a point of order, John. So we had a motion and a second, and then we need to vote, I guess. to
I'm
receive.
sorry.
We had a motion and a second, but we
Yeah,
haven't
okay,
voted.
yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Go ahead.
you're saying that these rentals are occurring just weekends, or are they happening for the 5 nights and 6 days that were talked about previously?
Well, the last 2 rentals they had, and they are renting now, have been 1-month periods.
Okay.
And then before that, like around the scalp season, which is like, what, July, that was weekly. And those were usually weekly. You know, they had the house built last year, and it was right around April or something like that, that was finished, and then they could start renting. And that was weekly, until I made the complaint with code enforcement, you know, to see if there's anything they can do. And then I did read the article that says they at least have to be registered. So they're safe, they're not a fire hazard or anything like that. So I said, they're driving me nuts, so I'll at least make sure they're registered. And that's what I did.
Did you just mention that they're renting now?
Yes,
This house?
yes. And on the other side of me, in the picture, shows another big house. On the other side of me, they're renting out too.
But they're not weekend rentals?
No, they have been, on the other side, they had 1 month and then the other month. When code enforcement came in,
Visitor that's there now, do you know if that's a weekly rental or a monthly rental, or?
well, after code enforcement came out, like in, I think it's around August last year, it did shut them down. They stayed shut down for months.
Okay.
And then the owners came to the house, what was it, last month, to try to make the first meeting, but that was postponed till this one. And then after they did, now they have renters there.
They're there today?
Yes.
Well, they can still rent the property. It doesn't mean they're
But
there.
I'm
for
just
week.
telling you that they're there, and they're for a month. They're for a month. I know they got three 1-month periods a year that they can do, so they're there for a month. And on the other side of me, they're not registered, and got 2
What I'm
months.
trying to get at is, are you saying there's a violation going on today?
I don't think so,
Okay.
because they're doing 1 month.
Gotcha.
But I'm just telling you that they are renting now. That's,
Can I ask a quick question? I saw the pictures. What specifically are you concerned about? From the photos I saw, cars parked, neat yards, no beer cans, no bottles, no trash.
noisy people that
It's
drive you
the
nuts.
people, the people.
They give you dirty
Okay.
looks. They look at like they want to fight you. You know, they don't want they come and like take over the neighborhood when they're there. They, you know,
Well, has anybody
There's-
threatened you? I mean, anybody try to fight you?
no,
They just give you what you think's a dirty look?
yeah,
Okay.
Has anybody accosted you?
pardon?
Has anybody accosted you, fought you, or
No. there's
challenged
no-
you, or verbally attacked you, or anything like that?
Well, I've had problems on the other side, but I did have problems when he was renting the other house out, and I could just see
Okay,
this
define-
starting to
tell-
happen.
What,
But,
tell me, define the problem.
playing loud music till like midnight or later, and you go over there and you tell them, could you turn it down? I hear your music in my house, and I'm trying to go to bed. Well, what are you gonna do about it?
Okay.
So I go, I'll call the cops. That's what I'll do about it. That's the things I go through.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever actually had to call the police for noise issues past?
Not on that house, because it's new,
Okay.
but the other house on the side of me, a few times. And people would come like every hour and a half, they'd get in their car, start their car, take off somewhere, come back, beep the horns, slam the doors, and then an hour and a half, do it again, do it again, do it again. Well, I got to work, and I can't just stay up all night, so I decided I'm going to call the cops so they can stop this, so I can at least get some sleep and do my job. And I had to negotiate with Pasco County Sheriff's Department for like 20 minutes to try to get them to come out. And once they came out, you know what? They said the magic words, and I had no problem the rest of the week that they're there. And it's just burns on you, because you don't know every week what's going to come in. You know, you might have good people a couple times in a row, and then, you could almost tell we're going to have problems. Just the way they pull in the lot, making all kinds of noise and throwing trash around. I have trespassing on my property. They'll come on my dock because they cast it over my dock and pulling their fishing line or hooks out of my dock. So I got people trespassing, could get hurt.
This your house in the photo?
Yes, the little one between those two.
Is that your boat trailer in the photo?
Yes.
Do we allow boat trailer parking in the front yard?
That is prohibited.
That's prohibited? Okay, I can change that.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, though. You know, you can't do that kind of stuff if you're renting your property. And, you know, I guess my experience is that, or my thinking is that if I've got a person that I don't really care for next to me, I know they're only gonna be there for a week. But if I get a long-term renter in there, they might be there for 2 years. So, we don't always have a choice about who we have next to us, but we do maybe have a choice of how long they're gonna be there. So,
We do.
you know, does anybody else have any questions? I want to give you as much time as possible. I know I've given you more time than,
I think there's others.
but I think we
I
have
have
some
two
others.
others that have signed up to speak on
Okay,
this one.
so let's hear what they have to say and,
Okay.
okay? We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Okay, who else would like to speak?
I have Jeannie Johnston.
Okay, Jeannie, if you could give us your full name and your address, please. And you've been sworn, right, Jeannie?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Jeannie Johnston. I live at 14501 Birch Street. I used to live directly across the street from the tall house. We call it the tall house on our street. And it was a vacant lot then. When we found out that they were building, we sold and moved into a different house on the block.
Okay.
And before I get started, I do have copies, 2 copies
Okay.
of the information that I'm going to give you.
Okay.
So I don't know, do I need to
Do
give
you have a
it?
motion?
So moved.
One is,
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeannie.
okay, before I get started, I'd like to read a letter from one of our neighbors on the street that was unable to attend.
Okay.
So she sent a letter, which is in that packet that I gave you, and it says, "Dear Planning Council, my name is Kim Cardinal, and I live at 14515 Birch Street in Hudson, Florida. I have lived at this address just short of 30 years. I am writing this because I'm unable to attend today's Planning Council meeting in person. I run a small family-owned business that needs my attention daily. My life and business partner passed away 5 years ago. My home is my safe haven. I want to voice my concerns over the short-term rental that's located at 14429 Birch Street. Since the property has been open to weekly rentals, there have been new people in and out every week. We are experiencing issues with excess traffic on our very narrow road, and at times the road has been completely blocked to the residents. The neighbors on either side of the rental house have also had to deal with increased noise. Birch Street used to be a very quiet, peaceful, and small community of neighbors. I fear that allowing the use of the home as a business will continue to disrupt the peace of our neighborhood and, more importantly, impact the safety and security of the residents that have lived there with their families for years. We have a lot of small children and pets that play on our dead-end street daily. The approval of this type of use on Birch Street will lead to a busy, loud, and dangerous situation in our tiny community. The renters in these situations are strangers to us and often have no care for anything other than their vacation fund. The disruption of our neighborhood can have lasting negative impacts on the health, safety, and comfort of all the other residents on Birch Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
In this group, there's a large group of us here today, which represents all but 2 of our total permanent full-time residents in our neighborhood. It's a 14-house neighborhood, and 7 of the houses are either vacant lots, owners that are out of state or out of country that have full-time rentals, and part-time, people that stay only part-time. The house that we had across the street is now a vacation rental, but only for the people that bought it. It sits empty most of the time. They usually come a week or 2 out of the month and stay for the weekend, and then they go back home, but they don't rent it to anyone else. So we have houses like that. The following is a list of our areas of concern that, as owner-occupied neighbors in this property, feel the need to be addressed before you grant them a permit. 517.1 of the code states, the purpose of an R4 high-density residential district is to encourage the orderly development and preservation without sacrificing the individualized nature of a single-family residence. We feel this cannot be achieved by allowing short-term vacation rentals within our smaller, family-oriented, and retiree community. This is the same thing that attracted the Ruttmans to our neighborhood, but they now want to take that away by renting to large groups of people until they decide to move in 20 years, or 15 years, or however, till their retirement.
Okay. I just want to make sure you understand that your time is officially up, so I want you to try to get it all in.
Okay.
So, okay?
Okay. If approved, this house should be closely monitored with enforceable penalties for the infractions. What county entity will oversee these infractions when they happen, and what will be the result if they have multiple infractions? I know for a fact that reporting can be a daunting task on our overworked and understaffed code enforcement and the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, because I've dealt with them in the past. The letter signed by these individuals indicating their agreement with the approval of the short-term rental was very vague and did not convey the necessary information to make a good, sound judgment decision to the impact on our community life, such as traffic and parking constraints, noise, number of tenants, length of stays, number of pets, number of boats per rental, devaluation of our properties, the crime rates, insurance cost with the claims that come with a vacation rental, to name just a few. Chapter 400.5, Item 7 requires standards to allow vacation rentals to exist. These standards need to be addressed prior to the approval. This is such as the setbacks between the dwellings, parking, the number of boats, the number of persons, noise ordinance, etc. All of these can have a major adverse effect on our small community on a dead-end street. Since the owners of this property applying for the vacation rental designation live and reside outside the state of Florida, they should apply requiring registration, and 2 statutes designate a local property manager. I know that they have a cleaning company. They do not have a property manager. They act as their own. They have a phone number to call them to take care of any issues, but I was under the understanding that if you have a rental in Florida, you need to designate a property management company. In addition to complying with all these above conditions, this property is currently occupied and also still listed online as a vacation rental. Is this not a blatant violation of the recommended conditions on the conditional use review report that is awaiting action?
As I said a minute ago, they still have the right to rent their property. It just, you know, and they can advertise it however they want.
Okay.
Did you say they were renting boats?
No, people,
they-
the renters come and they bring boats.
Okay.
So we're hoping that if they do allow them to have an Airbnb, they'll have strict conditions that they need to be met. And if those conditions are not met, who do we call? We want to have someone that we can say, hey, this condition is not being met, they're not following the rules, because I, as a homeowner in that neighborhood, know how difficult it is to get code enforcement or the Pasco Sheriff's Office. They're shorthanded, and this is not one of their high priority items. So if we do end up with it in our neighborhood, we want to be able to at least have conditions on the number of cars.
We want to have an opportunity to ask you a question if we need
Yep.
to, and you're way beyond your time, so.
Okay, sorry.
All right, did you think you covered it all?
I think I did.
Okay, thank you. And are there questions from up here?
I have one quick question. Is this a deed restricted community?
No, it is not.
So you do not have your own HOA,
No,
correct?
we do
You
not.
have no CDD there,
We do not.
so you depend on the county for code enforcement
We do.
issues. Okay. You indicated that the individuals who are renting this property show up with boats, is that correct?
No, yeah, the people that rent, when they come in, they rent currently to 8, they're able to rent to 8 people.
Okay, but I
So
just
yeah,
asked
they
about
show
the
up with boats. They bring boats.
And where do they park the boats at?
They put the boats in over at the boat ramp, which is currently only at half capacity anyways, and they bring them around to the canal and they tie them up to their dock, their floating dock.
You
More
said-
than one sometimes.
But you just said it was not at full capacity, so how's that a problem?
No, I mean, the boat ramp is not at full capacity.
Oh, okay, but they
No.
could leave the boats on the trailers at the boat dock?
No, no,
Okay,
they
just asking
take
for
their boat,
clarification.
the renters come to the rental, they bring their boats with them. They take their boats over to the public boat ramp over by Sam's on the beach. They put their boats in the water, they bring them around up our canal and tie them off to the boat dock.
And what do they do with the trailers?
They park it in the yard, they park it in the grass, they park it at the neighbors. They don't, that's what I'm saying, they don't really care where it goes.
Well, we
It's-
just,
they
we
park
just,
'em
we
along
just
the
pointed out
street.
that the neighbor that came up here to speak has his trailer right in front of his yard.
Okay, but there's no yard for this house.
Okay,
And if the parking only has space for 4 cars, and you have 4 cars and 2 boats, the boats end up in the vacant lot across the street, or in the neighbors that's only there 1 weekend out of a month.
What happens if your neighbor does that as an owner?
You jump all over them. They don't.
So have you had any contact with the owners of this property regarding some of these issues?
No, this house personally has only been rented for just a very few months. It was just built. So it was only rented from April to August is the only amount of time that it was rented.
So the property owner testified that she makes her contact information available. So do you have her
She's in
contact?
Massachusetts.
Do you have her contact info though, or have you
I
seen
have her telephone number.
Okay. Have you tried contacting her with any of these issues?
Like I said, the issues that we had were only during scalloping season this past year. And no, I haven't personally called her. No, I did not.
Okay.
But with her other house, yes, I had, because they also own the house on the other side of the house that they built. And that was an Airbnb for many years across the street from me.
So when you contacted her with the previous property, did you feel like the issues were addressed after you
No.
spoke with her?
No, we had kids on the roof of the house.
What was the response you got from the owner?
We'll take care of it. And then we went to the house where the adults were inside the house and said, your kids are playing on your roof. And they said, it's okay, they're down now. And that was pretty much the extent of it. But my thing is, if there's an emergency, calling Massachusetts isn't going to get anything done. They need someone local. And I'm sorry, but I don't know that the cleaning company is going to be responsible if we call because there's too much noise.
Okay, if there's no other questions, let's hear the next person, okay? Thank you
you.
very much. Who's next?
Person's name is Charles, I'm going to, Vichicki? Vichika.
Well, must be afternoon by now. Good morning, and good afternoon. Thank you for letting me come and speak. I live at 14523 Birch Street in Hudson, Florida. Have been sworn in. So I
And your
will give my
name is,
statement.
say your name for the record, please.
Charles Vichika.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. One of the issues I'd like to address is they built the house and they're saying, well, we have to rent it to pay for it. Well, I retired after 34 years of law enforcement. I bought the piece of property and I didn't build a house until I could pay for it. And because I didn't want to disturb the neighborhood and rent it. So now we have people coming in and saying, well, and they owned a house before, and I believe the lady had a hotel something license in Florida. So she should have been aware about Airbnbs and getting permission to rent them. So I waited, I built, and I didn't disturb anybody in the neighborhood because I wanted to live in a neighborhood on a dead-end street and quiet. Now you're asking us to give up that for somebody that wants to rent it so that they can live there in the future at some time. Also, there's at least 3 long-term rentals on that block. The one that lived next to me they tried to short-term it for a while. I had a lady that tried to burn the house down next to my house. She put a load of fireworks on the stove and lit it because she wanted to burn the house. She wasn't happy with the neighborhood and the owners. I had another one when they came in, and we had a drug person come in, and next thing you know, you had motorcycles and drug people in the neighborhood. They want long-term rental, and we've had no problems with long-term rental, and they apparently have no problem in meeting their budgets and paying their taxes too. With long-term rentals, we have 3 in the neighborhood, and we've had no problem with those 3 with the long-term rentals. It's the short-term rentals we always had problems with. The house that they're talking about, yes, they brought the boats in, and when they first come in, they leave the boats and the trailers on the side because there's no place for them to put them at their property. There's no room. I had to drive up on the grass to get by to get to my house. And I believe municipal code requires that they get a rental company to handle any problems that may come because they're out-of-state personnel, and I believe that's in the municipal code. So using people that clean the house as though that's the contact, I don't believe that is required as in the municipal code. So, I can go on, but we lived there. Our animals lived there, our children lived there, and numerous times recently, I'm coming down the street, and there's a black Jeep coming up that was at one of that rental property, and he wouldn't move to the left or to the right. And on that occasion, I had to move over into the grass with my car. Lucky there was grass for me to do that. So you're going to put an extra burden on a short-term rental than the neighborhood can handle. The street is narrow. It's an old street. I think it even says it in the paperwork that it's a narrow substandard street. And so I think by allowing mass introduction of persons and people is not going to be good for the neighborhood. And I believe, even though it's an R4, that, as Jeannie said, it said that it was not to take away from the single-family residency. And all the people that are here are registered voters that live there. This person that wants to rent doesn't live here, and is not a registered voter. But I know you have the concerns that the state law says you can't totally deny short-term rentals, but you can put in restrictions that are needed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay. Anyone next? Denise?
I don't have anyone else who's signed up to speak.
Okay. Okay.
Does the code require them to have a local property manager?
I'm looking through the code and I don't see where it states that it's required. There are sections that talks about, in the registration section, for example, it talks about the property owner and management company if applicable, but I don't see where it says that there's a requirement for a management company.
Okay.
Is there any definition in our code of like transient lodging?
What do you mean, John?
Well, what makes the difference between a hotel, a short-term rental?
The big difference is a hotel is usually nightly. You know, the short-term rentals are the ones that I always had are typically a minimum of a week, usually 2 weeks.
It's, in my mind, at some point, you're in this gray area between what's a residential property and what's a commercial operation. So I'm just curious if the code attempted to address that or not. It's not something I recall seeing.
All right. If the owner's still online, would they like to respond to some of the questions, offer suggestions? I'm sure the people would like to hear some of their feelings and answers on some of these things, like parking, pets, boats, the number of persons, property management, how they feel about those things.
Sure, we'd love to provide our feedback and our responses. We recognize that what all three of our neighbors have identified were related to that week during scallop season, where there were unbeknownst to us, our guests that we had hosted were inviting other people, and those people were bringing boats. Today is the first time that I've heard the true extent of that issue. Even when we met with Jeannie on the street that day and chatted about it, I didn't fully appreciate the number of boats and disruption in the number of people. This is why, as part of our conditional use application, we've decided to eliminate renting during Scallop Week to avoid the kind of attraction that would happen during that week, which I believe will, one, reduce the number of people at the property. We're only going to rent it to 8 people at a time. And so without renting during Scallop Week, it won't be attracting the friends and family network. I think this will also address the boat issue. Obviously, Scallop Week, it's a boating week, and those people won't coming with boats. We can certainly address the trailer issue. We always, during that week, we encourage people to use the marina, and we can make that, if anyone asks if they can travel with a boat, we will tell them they can't park the trailer at the property. They'll have to find someplace else to put the trailer, and it can't be in the neighborhood or on the street. That's in my opinion, an easy fix now that we know the extent of the problem. I think that also addresses like the traffic and things of that nature. We don't allow pets. There's no pets allowed at our property. The only time we allow a pet is if someone's going to be staying for 30 days at a time. And those kinds of situations where we're pet owners ourselves, we know it's tough to leave your pet for, it's easy to leave a pet for a week. It's hard to leave a pet for more than a week. So if you're there for 30 days at a time, we do allow them to bring a pet, but we do have limits on the number of pets, and we do ask a lot of questions about the nature of the animal and the size, and we do some pretty specific screening to make sure that the people who are renting from us meet our requirements. I come from a law enforcement background. I have over 20 years of experience in law enforcement, and I understand some of the challenges and concerns. And I do a great deal of pre-screening through the Airbnb and VRBO applications, asking lots of questions before we agree to rent the property. And I think the other question was about the property manager, and I think this sort of dovetails nicely. We understand what the neighbors are saying about the, who's going to respond right away. I think it's unfortunate that our neighbors have never given us the opportunity to address the issue. Nobody called us during Scallop Week to tell us that this was happening, so we didn't really have a chance to prove ourselves, and I think we deserve that chance. Our concern with turning it over to a property manager is that now it becomes completely out of our control, and we have to rely on a property manager to take care of our property, which my husband and I don't feel particularly comfortable with. They're not going to take care of the property or the neighborhood the same way that we would, and we would just appreciate that opportunity to do so. I'm happy to answer your questions.
What about parking?
With the limit of 8 people at the property, conceivably we should have no more than 4 cars in the driveway, and we can fit those cars very comfortably in the current driveway that we have.
So you're going to limit it to no more than 4 cars?
Yes, well, we cannot make that limit of no more than 4 cars. I think that's appropriate.
Okay. I think, I'm just one person here, but I do think it'd be important for you to have, whether you call them a property manager or something else, you need somebody that you can call upon that can handle complaints immediately. Nobody wants to wait a week to have an owner respond, and you can't respond from Massachusetts in the same way somebody on site here could respond. Personally, I think it'd be a good idea for you and for the neighbors to have somebody here locally. They don't have to be living in that neighborhood, but they could be. That could respond if there was a problem. You could have a water break. You could have lots of things go on, and you really, as I say, I've dealt with lots of vacation rentals, so I know the problems that can come up. And, personally, we didn't allow any pets. They can cause damage to the house. There's lots of reasons why, and I can tell you that if it was mine, I wouldn't allow any pets. You really don't know what you're getting. And even if VRBO or Airbnb, if they're asking the questions, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. You have a boat dock, am I right? You do
Yes,
have a
sir.
boat dock, so as long as they keep their trailers and stuff out of there, I don't think there should be any complaints about somebody tying a boat up to an existing dock. I don't know why anybody would object to that. And then, and then the only other comment I had was the number of persons, to make sure that you didn't exceed the number of people that could sleep in that home. So from what I understand, you're willing to limit the use to no more than 4 cars on the property, and they have to be parked in the driveway or under the, I guess, under the carport. What about the pet situation?
Yeah, we would definitely limit it to 4 cars. I mean, if it's the request of the commission that we don't allow pets, we can certainly implement that.
Okay. We talked about boats. You're gonna limit the, any parking of boats or any trailers or anything like that on the property. They have to be, if it's a boat, it's gotta be in the water on the dock, tied up to the dock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Any boats brought to the property would need to be tied up to the dock, otherwise they can't be parked in the neighborhood.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about I'll call him, rather than a property manager, I'll call him a contact person.
Sure, we can look into that. In fact, our cleaning people do run a property management business in addition to their cleaning service. We've talked to them in the past about bringing them on as a property manager. If that's something that the planning commission recommends as part of the conditional use, we have no issue with, formalizing that relationship with them.
Just remember that if they are managing property and being paid to manage property, they need to be licensed. So,
Yes, I believe they're fully licensed as well, but I will confirm that before we move into any sort of relationship.
okay. Because if they're being paid, then they're your agent. And agents handling
Understood.
real property are required to be licensed. Anybody else have
I
anything?
think, sir, if I could just make one quick comment. If our cleaning folks are not properly licensed, our next step would probably have to go with something like a Vacasa or something like that, which I know is not going to be it's not going to be helpful to anyone. So we'll have to do some digging. I just would ask that if that's a condition, that we get a little bit of time to sort that out. Because I know if we should get approved, I think we only have 30 days to implement. And I think that might take a little more time to do the right interviewing and find the right person.
I think the chairman was just looking for at least a contact, someone that's local on the ground that can handle any issues that comes up. So even if it's not a formal property management
Yeah, but
arrangement.
if they are being
Okay.
paid to manage the property,
But if they are paid to manage it, then they have to be
then
licensed.
they need a license. And
Okay.
and
All right.
don't-
I understand better now.
I
Thank you.
wouldn't have any problem stipulating, 60 days or something like that for that purpose. But again, I'm just one vote. I'm just making comments, notes that I made that are concerning your neighbors. I think they have the right to quiet enjoyment of their property, and I've done this kind of property a lot in the past. I think it can be done right, and I think if you follow these guidelines, I think it's going to go a long way to make a difference to your neighbors. They have somebody on hand they can quickly call if there's a problem, and they'll respond. So, and I'm sure you'll be a great neighbor when you finally move down here. How long is it going to be? How long do you think?
We'd like to be sooner than later, but it's hard to say. We're just turning 50, so we still have a few years left.
Okay, well, maybe you'll hit the lottery or something and you come sooner.
Keep playing Powerball.
We can hope. Maybe
Yeah, right.
Powerball.
Okay, great. Any other questions from up here?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I think I heard Ms. Clemente Rutman state that she was not going to rent during Scallop Week, and that's something that she was willing to add as a condition of approval.
Right.
Which is not in your conditions of approval right now. However, when I looked at Scallop Week, there's no such thing as Scallop Week. It's Scallop Season, which is a total of 10 days.
Right.
And it basically usually starts the third Friday in July. So I just wanted to clarify that for the Planning Commission members.
I will.
That could change.
Right,
Right, it could change, but it's not a week. It's,
And that's specifying that it's Pasco County scallop season, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's
Pasco
different
County
for every
scallop
county.
season.
Yeah, right.
So,
It's against state law to bring them across the county line through the water.
Ms. Clemente, I mean, are you, if you include that as a condition, then you're aware that perhaps that scallop season could become a month or longer in the future.
Yes, sir. We would comply with whatever the scallop season is listed on the website, and then just adjust our calendar accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Anything else from up here?
I just wanted to clarify, I assume by discussion about boats, that would be trailer boats.
Yeah.
So that someone could bring kayaks, obviously, on their
Oh, yeah.
vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that.
Powered boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions, concerns?
Is that a form of a motion?
I don't know if you can make a motion, Mr. Chair, but I'd move approval with those conditions.
Well, can we get Denise to, or somebody to recite the conditions?
Right.
Because I need to make sure that's officially part of the motion.
Okay, so certainly, these are things we need to work on language. So as I understand it, it's to add these conditions, which is prohibiting vacation rentals during Pasco County scallop season as demonstrated in the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission website, because that's where you'll find that. The other one had to do with limiting no more than 4 cars in the driveway, or limiting no more than 4 cars, and they must be parked in the driveway. And then the last one had to do with having a local representative available to answer questions or deal with any complaints.
Any issues?
So
So
can I-
certainly I have to,
So Denise, my only potential concern is the last one. How would the public know who the representative is? I mean, does it have to be posted somewhere, or is it, I don't know how they would, just because they've designated one doesn't mean that the neighbors would know who it is. So where is that gonna be published, or is it gonna be on the door, or is it gonna be, where are they gonna put that?
We have a registry, do we have a registry of these?
we do have a registry of
And
these.
is that online where the public can go see?
It is not online, but we can make it online so
If
the
it were
public can go see.
online and that contact person were listed for that particular short-term rental, that'd probably be helpful.
Yeah, I can work with our IT department and
Well, I mean, I
put that
wasn't
online.
necessarily suggesting that you have to put all the burden on Denise. I mean, you could put it on the applicant.
I was gonna say that
I mean, you could make the applicant post it somewhere on the site, too. I mean,
the applicant advertised on VRBO or Airbnb, they have to list it on their
I'm
posting.
a little hesitant about that because I don't want to impose a sign in a residential neighborhood.
Right. But if it's listed publicly online for the listing of the property. Or if she,
So all
or
the
if she
signs that are
notices.
required
neighbors.
under our code are going to be internal. You know, they have to be posted on the doors, but internally to the
Right,
unit.
that's what I mean. I'm hesitant to impose some exterior signage in what's supposed to look like a residential property, and now I got a sign, well, it makes it look commercial.
Why don't we do it the same way we notify them on a property zoning, just anybody within 500 feet, 500-foot radius, the owner is responsible for sending out the notification of who that person is.
That would be a good.
But what if that person changes? So they
Same
should
thing
do it
then.
each
Yeah,
time?
do
You'd
renotice,
have to do a new
All right.
notice.
Provide notice to the neighbor.
No, I'm sorry, nothing from the public. Okay, and also, I think they said that they agreed that they would prohibit pets.
And this is in addition to the recommended conditions on the.
So, my only slight comment to that, Mr. Chairman, is I don't know that you can prohibit service animals. Like if somebody's, there may be federal prohibitions on you prohibiting seeing-eye dogs, et cetera.
Yeah, I understand that.
Which brings
Yeah.
up another interesting subject, not to get off track here, but I would advise the owners to check with the Americans with Disabilities Act, because at some point, you're bordering on what's a residential home, a dwelling, which is exempt from the ADA, and what is transient lodging, which is not exempt from the ADA, and you may be required to do all kinds of things to your home. I don't know where that line is. I can tell you, I'm going to go, when I get back to my office, I'm going to research it.
Uh-oh, we opened up a can of worms there.
Well, regardless, if the ADA applies, they're going to have to comply with it anyway. That's. I
Well,
don't know
I'm
that-
not making that a condition.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be a condition of approval. But if there's a restriction on pets, you
Yes,
can
I
do
think
that,
you're
but
right
just
about
make sure you have an exception for, I don't know what the right term is, if it's registered service animals, or, I think there's a process you can go through to get a service animal to be.
Official, yeah, registered. Yeah, there should be some record of it.
I think you need some kind of prescription to get that type of animal. I just don't know what the right phrase is.
I don't know, apparently Publix, Home Depot, and Lowe's hasn't figured it out yet.
Why is that?
Because you just go buy a little jacket and put it on your dog, and it says, I'm a security dog,
Well,
whatever it is, and they walk in the store with it.
but we could do better than Publix, and, I mean, I think there is a process to have a legitimate service animal.
It's codified in Florida statute. So
Right.
Florida statute 413.08 defines a service animal as an animal to be trained to perform tasks for an individual with a disability.
But are they required to be registered?
That's the question.
Well, Denise, between now and the board, Denise we can figure that out, what the process is. I just wanted to make sure we're talking about official
Understood.
registered service animals, not somebody who just puts on a jacket. That's what it says.
Right. Right. Other than that, I think we pretty much covered it.
So is that your motion, Mr. Pontlitz?
Yes, motion to approve with those
Then I will
conditions.
second it.
Can we possibly have somebody state the motion a little bit more for the record?
Sure, you have to make it difficult.
Well,
don't you?
Denise is the one that wrote down all the conditions, but do you want Denise to reread all the conditions?
With the added stuff that was added, when you
Yeah.
type it, I don't know how you want us to type the official motion.
Right.
With the extra commentary in between, because you had mentioned afterwards.
So I'd move we approve the application with the conditions already stated in the application, along with the conditions that Ms. Hernandez read.
That's why I'm asking, do you need a copy of what Ms. Hernandez read? Okay, all right.
And I still second that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's clear as mud. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion of the motion or clarification of the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, I hope that helps everyone, and gets us to a point where we are being fair with everyone.
All right, so we're moving now on to item P8.
Okay?
Good afternoon. Amy Tull with Planning and Development. As we're pulling up the PowerPoint, I would like to move and receive a file that I wanted to add to this project. We received confirmation from the Odessa Town Center plan development from a property owner that would actually like to be included in this. So I created a map so you can see where that property owner was located and how they relate to this project area.
Okay, so we have a motion to receive.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, carries.
So what is being presented before you today is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in the name of Odessa Town Center Plan Development. This effort is a county-initiated amendment, and the planning and development staff with long-range planning, we had this effort undergo for about 2 years now, various neighborhood meetings and interdepartmental coordination to come up with this area plan. So we do think that this does achieve the mixture of uses and highlights the employment generating capacity that we would like to see in Pasco County. So without further ado, the comprehensive plan is in the name of CPL 2201 Odessa Town Center. It's located in the South Market area and urban service area on the south side of Pasco County at the southwest intersection of Gun Highway and State Road 54. So I wanted to give a little history at the beginning of how this came to fruition. On October 14th, 2021, we held our first neighborhood meeting. This is just a screenshot. This document is within the agenda as well as one of the attachments. This is just a screenshot taking into consideration or documenting, summarizing some of the comments that were captured at that first meeting. We had a previous planner on that. I was not in attendance. He is no longer with the county, so I took this over about midway. So at this point in time, this was the very first meeting to explain what the intent of the Odessa Town Center plan development was and capture some of the citizens' concerns, questions, and have that neighborhood meeting. So with that being said, we hired a consultant, which was in the name of Adura at that point in time. They worked with us to draft 3 conceptual plans after that meeting that we would highlight to the citizens and neighborhood at the second meeting, taking into consideration some of those concerns and then giving them various scenarios. So the very first scenario that you see here was a scenario that basically took into consideration if the development or if this area were to develop at the capacity or rate that we are going now, with multifamily, that's what would be a potential concept of what it would look like. The second scenario is identifying the existing uses. So it took into consideration basically some of the vacant areas, kept the existing uses that were already in place, and kind of programmed this mixed-use development of vertically integrated non-residential and residential uses, office, retail, commercial, and light industry. Some of the colors that you'll see here, the orange is going to be your vertically integrated, yellow is going to be your residential. We have parks and open spaces, red is your commercial, blue is office, and purple is light industry. So as I stated, scenario 2 was keeping what was already on the ground existing and then retrofitting this concept into what was already there. And then scenario 3 was a complete overhaul, so disregarding what was there and just completely programming the area for a mixed-use development. So with that being said, those were some of the examples that were provided to us as a result of the first neighborhood meeting. So on 5/12/22, we held a second neighborhood meeting. These were just some snippets of the slides that we ended up presenting, and I'll go into a little bit of detail of what occurred there. So at that second neighborhood meeting, it was more of an interactive charrette. We ended up printing out 18 by 24-inch maps with trace paper, put it on each table, and allowed them to articulate to us some of the things that they wanted to see, some of the concerns that they may have had, and be able to visualize some of these changes and have that full engagement with the community. So we have some footage or photos of what occurred and how we were there. And then some of the changes as a result of that meeting are then reflected into these conceptual plans. So the main changes that occurred were to scenario 2 and scenario 1, scenario 2 and scenario 3, excuse me. Scenario 1, obviously, we stayed with the status quo as our current development patterns were continuing and showed or highlighted this area as being multifamily. Scenario 2, we made a little bit of adjustments, and we ended up taking into consideration your open space, centralized park, your wetlands, and also a more integrated transportation network. And so within that integrated transportation network, you'll see some of the buildings actually placed more along the frontages of those roadway networks to create more of a pedestrian-friendly orientation. Again, in this killer scenario, the red would have been now mixed use, the yellow would have been simply residential, purple is your light industry, blue is office, and it looks like red, it looks like they have red in there too for commercial. So I guess commercial, retail, mixed use, they merged those two concepts together. So scenario one, again, still retained the existing building structures that were there and then retrofitted this concept into what's already existing. And then scenario two was a complete overhaul of vertically integrated mixed uses, office, light industry, employment generating, alongside an integrated pedestrian and transit network. So you also have this document in your packet. This is a summary of the findings from that meeting as well that we had documented. So you can see some of the comments that were captured were pretty much, I wouldn't say in full support of it, but one of the main concerns that were highlighted was, how does this impact me? How does this impact my property values? And so here are some results of the findings or level of interaction that we received. And I can tell you what those dots mean real quick. The blue that we highlighted, so like I said, we had these 18 by 24 maps, trace paper, we had little dots so they can kind of interact with us. So the blue would be office, the red would be commercial, purple light industry, yellow is residential, pink is vertically integrated, and green was open space. So you can see where some of those concerns were located. And then just a brief summary of some of the notes. We also had sticky notes and whatnot on the tables. So these were some of the results from the sticky notes that they wrote on. So with that being said, after about 2 years of planning and working through this, here we are. So the proposal that is in front of you is an amendment to plan development. It is on approximately 81.47 acres. The current land use is Res 9 and ROR, and the location is at the southwest corner of the intersection of State Road 54 and Gun Highway. A resolution to our proposal is to amend future land use maps 2-15 and sheet 22, as well as creating a sub-area policy that would define the land uses, density, intensity of this area as a mixed-use development and some of the design standards that we would like to see here. Oops. And these are policies that we found consistent with the proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Those are detailed in your packet. Here's a visual representation of where it's located. This is your existing future land use, being the ROR to the north. You'll have ROR along Gun Highway, and then the Res 9 in the center, or pushed back. This would be what it would look like on the map as a PD. And this is a conceptual plan that will accompany the PD sub-area policy to highlight what some of those design standards and areas we would like to see. So I can go into a little bit of detail of what this means, and this is highlighting. So within the plan development, the conceptual plan is envisioning 3 different villages. The pink area or red area is going to be a mixed-use village. That village is going to be primarily high-density residential integrated with office, retail, non-residential uses. That area is the only area that is permitted for residential development. It is not permitted for single-family development. It is only permitted for multifamily or single-family attached, I guess you would say. The density for this area is up to 32 dwelling units per gross acre and 3.0 FAR. The reason why we chose that is that it aligns with the town center future land use, because we do want this area to be developed in more of a town center way. The village EG is going to be your employment generating village. That village does not allow for residential, and it is prioritizing and would prefer to see office, retail, and employment generating land use target industry. That's where we want to focus that on. And then the purple area you'll see is LI. Currently, it is a C2 zoning district with ROR flu. The intent of this area is to act as a companion to your mixed-use and employment-generating villages, but we also still wanted to retain that status quo as well from what's already existing. So right now, it's commercial and ROR. You do have the opportunity within a C2 zoning district in the ROR flu to have a residential component. However, the C2 only allows that residential component to occur if it's vertically integrated and/or affordable housing or within the West Market area. In this case, we have permitted the residential development to occur with vertical integration. And with that, we recommend the local planning agency find the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan and approve to the Board of County Commissioners. But I do want to just make a quick modification to that because of the property owner who wants to be included into this. So we would find that the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and approve to the Board of County Commissioners with a recommendation to change the conceptual plan and add this parcel that you see for the property owner to the EG village. He would like to be included into the EG or employment generating land use village. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help or answer.
Okay, what's on that property now, that EG, the one you want to add?
The property now that he has, it is a office retail, little office retail strip shop along the frontage right now.
Why was he not included to begin with?
Currently, it's C2 and ROR, so he has the mixed-use capabilities as well. So he reached out to us personally and asked to be added because those levels of mixture of uses were already achieved in that land use.
I'm looking at the map, and I'm just kind of wondering why we're not squaring off this corner, and it looks to me like the key piece of property is the flea market out there, and then I see this one asks to be added. Why is the flea market not included, and why was this one not included?
So the flea market was not included because the flea market actually started their site planning before Odessa Town Center was started. So previously, they did not want to be included because they didn't want to hold back to get any delays based on this staff-initiated amendment. So they ended up moving forward. They had their site planning, zoning, everything was already set in place. So they were already ready to go for site planning for the most part.
They have a site plan approval today?
I'm sorry? Right. The Lowe's flea market site's the Lowe's property. We have a site plan already approved for Lowe's.
Got you, okay.
I would have to recuse myself if we're talking about that.
And were all the other properties that are in the concept plan are included in the proposed PD, or is that voluntary participation?
They were all a part of the plan development discussion. So they were all aware of this action being had or processed over the last few years. If anybody wanted to not partake in it, they didn't advise to us. And because it is a comprehensive plan amendment, that's where we were able to move forward with this. We did present official or appropriate noticing to surrounding property owners as well. However, if they do have, because we have a stipulation in the sub-area policy, because we do recognize that some landowners would still like to retain potentially or have the potential to retain what they currently have, there is a stipulation in the sub-area policy that allows for them to use their property to the full extent and ensure consistency with the plan development as is. However, if they would like to, say, opt in to the plan development, then they would be required to rezone and align with these sub-area policies.
Of the three concept plans that you showed us, is there one that we're like leaning towards, or is there preferred?
Sure.
Which one was that?
Sure. So it was more pretty much scenario 2. So taking into consideration what was already there. So that's where your light industry area along Gun Highway, where it's already C2 and ROR. We ended up retaining that status quo, ensuring that they can still develop in the way that they pretty much want to. And then along the frontage, you have your ROR mixed use. So primarily, we're retaining that ROR mixed use, but then the main concept, or what we truly wanted to achieve here, was increasing the employment generating capacity and bringing more target industry here.
I like the plan, but I have some concern over a lot of the properties in the southern portion.
Sure.
Those are all 3/4 of an acre, 2 acres.
Correct.
One of the conditions of this PD is that if they want to rezone, they have to be MPUD.
Correct.
But the code requires 5 acres to be an MPUD, so how do they rezone?
Correct. I believe with the code on MPUDs, the 5 acres is for residential, and there's no restriction on a non-residential MPUD
Well, what if
requirement.
they're in that residential section?
So we currently, so the residential section would be your mixed-use section. So here, I'll show you real quick. So on the concept plan, it'll be that pink area.
Right.
So the majority, so where you see those 2 roadway segments, we already have a proposed MPUD in the works for that area. So half of that's already in the works. But however, the other side, yes, if they did want to rezone to increase their density, then they would have to align with the sections of the code and then the standards of this sub-area policy.
David, is there an opportunity for us to make an exception? My concern is that if they don't have the opportunity, if they're a smaller property and
Sure.
they don't have the opportunity because of their size to get that MPUD zoning, that you might not achieve the results you want. What I'm trying to figure out how to make this easy for them.
So the answer to the question is the comp plan would supersede the LDC in the event of a conflict. So if the comp plan said that you could do an MPD for a smaller acreage, I think that would supersede the requirements of the code. So yes, you could. But you'd have to embed it in the comp plan, in the sub-area policies.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Amy?
And you said that would have to be in the sub-area policy?
That would be in the sub-area policies, which there is a fairly lengthy sub-area policy for this, that goes with this.
Can you
Changed.
help me out, David? Because I'd like to move to approve
Well,
this.
Well,
But
I
I'd
think
like to
you
see
need
that.
to take public comment, you need to take public comment first, but staff would need to give me the code section that limits MPUDs to 5 acres, but it basically would say, notwithstanding that code section, MPUDs of less than 5 acres are permitted within this area. I just don't know the name of the code section. Or the number of
Getting
the
you
code
that
section.
name in a second.
All right. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
So are there other people here that would like to speak?
I'm not on the list, but I'd like to speak.
I'm sorry if you're not on the list. Here in big trouble.
I didn't know.
I'm on a lot of lists.
I didn't know about that gray area. I've never seen that site.
Yeah, of course you can speak if you'd like to. We'll get you sworn. Do you want to speak, Joel?
Mr. Chairman, Joel too, and I have been sworn. I represent Altus Cardinal, which is a mixed-use developer from Miami. They have the westernmost portion of this PD area under contract and intend to entitle and develop it. That comprises about 20 acres on the western end adjacent to the cemetery. They fortunately were able to assemble multiple parcels so that we could start an MPUD. And in one way, we were somewhat the impetus for this plan because we've been working at this about 2 years. We embraced the county's idea, and particularly the resident commissioner's concept, that this area needed to be master planned overall. As you know, it's a bit of an eyesore right there on 54 at Gun, directly across from beautiful Starkey Ranch, particularly after the flea market closed. So we're entirely in support of this, and we hope that our project can be the western linchpin to help kick this off, together with what's starting over at Lowe's. We have committed to this interconnected grid system and the pedestrian connectivity. We're going to extend the trail through the parcel so that we can get up to Gun and cross 54 to tie in on the north side to go into the Suncoast. That existing trail is just south of Interlochen, right on the southwest corner. And we have a right-of-way, actually a Tampa Bay Water right-of-way running up our western boundary between us and the cemetery, that we have preliminary indication from Tampa Bay Water that we can use their easement to actually build that trail and extend it up and then come right through the center of our project along what is labeled as Blissfield Road, so that we can create a central trail corridor going right through the middle of this project. Ours will be village mixed use, and the reason that's important for us is the current owner had strip commercial on the front and was prepared to do your traditional Taco Bell, KFC, and Mattress Firm on the frontage. So we kind of intercepted that, and we're going to do the mixed use part. We've committed that our front two buildings right on 54 will be mandatory vertical mixed use. We will do retail on the ground floor of both of those with residential above it, and then we will have multifamily behind it, shielded from the road, and we will create that window. The other thing important about our part is, as Amy said, those access areas there on 54, our westernmost one is most important. That is the only existing DOT median cut along this frontage. So we have a westbound left turn into the property at that site. So we're designing our MPUD so that that entrance will become really the primary entrance straight in between our two mixed-use buildings. And then we'll have a roundabout at Blissfield so that the movement then can go internal all the way through to Gun Highway. The other connections are likely too close to Gun Highway for DOT to allow any more median cuts. So we're doing everything to preserve that existing median cut and using it as the central entrance into our part of the project. So having literally dozens of parcels here, we believe from the outset and still believe today that the way the county staff is doing this with an overall PD overlay, if you will, is the only way this could have ever gotten planned, because otherwise you would have been picked off piecemeal by people like myself coming in and just doing strip out parcels and then throwing up apartments behind them. That's what would have happened, undoubtedly. So we think it's a great vision, it's a great plan. I know you can't make everyone happy. I'm sure there are existing residents there with smaller parcels that likely have no intention of changing. And the beauty of the way staff has drafted this, as Amy said, is they have every right, just as we said in VOPH now for 15 years, you have every right under these sub-area policies to keep your zoning and to continue to use your property consistent with what you have. It's only if you elect to redevelop and avail yourself of this increased density and intensity, then you have to agree to play by the rules and abide by the master plan. But common sense tells me that over the next 10, 15 years, most of this, of course, will evolve. It's going to immediately double, triple, quadruple land values within this planned area once this opportunity and this mandated grid system is available. So we support it. We appreciate the staff getting us to this point. It's been a long time. And we actually have our MPUD already in review and almost ready for hearing. So you're actually going to see our MPUD for that western portion, hopefully literally 1 month behind this plan amendment process, because we've held off our landowner as long as we can, and we need to close while he's still willing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, Joel, and I agree with you. I like the fact that we're doing it this way. We weren't 100% sure of the number of multifamily, and maybe that's a question for Amy too, but the total entitlements, or what are you planning on coming with?
It's a question for Amy because she has the numbers on her overall. I can tell you specifically that the westernmost 20 acres, which is literally almost 50% of this pink area, we're only proposing 320 multifamily units, which is fairly low compared to the overall entitlement that they have for the area. So we're just proposing 320 plus our ground floor retail. That'll be the entire ground floors of those front two buildings fronting on 54.
Okay, and the reason I ask is I'm not opposed to it. It's just the timing you know, Odessa Elementary's crowded. We have a new K-8 coming in 2025, which will help that situation. I just want to make sure there's not 1,300
No,
units going up.
ours is 320, and to my knowledge, ours is the only one that already is in for zoning that has any residential. And just thinking logically, we're already 23, there'll be at least 24
Sure.
permits. There'll be at least 25 constructing and coming online, even if there's no delay.
Yeah, and if there's 300, then we're only talking about
Yeah,
30
our
elementary
MPD is
students.
320 plus the 12,000 square feet of ground floor retail.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else?
And-
Happy to, otherwise, we can discuss details on
Yeah,
ours in a
sure.
month or so.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But if Amy, if you don't mind just giving me that, and it may be, I know it may be kind of fluid, but
Sure. So in the plan development, we are allowing for up to 32 dwelling units per acre and then a 3.04 for your square footage. But however, residential is only permitted in the pink area, which is approximately, I have it, hold on, which is approximately 36.99 acres. So we already have 20 acres counted for. So approximately 16, 17 acres available at
Okay.
32 dwelling units at a maximum development potential.
all right, thank you.
And to answer the question, it's 522.2A2C.
Okay.
But who's counting, right?
Code section that requires the 5 acres. It basically says MPUDs that contain only residential uses must be a minimum of 5 acres, except where located in the coastal high hazard area where there is no minimum size.
The language would be notwithstanding the code section that she just read, MPDs of less than 5 acres shall be allowed in this
And that's,
PD sub-area.
and that would only, what is only for residential. So if it comes in for mixed use, then do we want to control that size as well? If it's a smaller couple, but mixed use?
What I'm looking to do is make sure that everybody can avail themselves to the MPUD zoning process regardless of the size of their property. You may get somebody that comes in with a small, compact,
Sure.
1 acre development that, yeah, you want it.
Sure.
What I don't want to see is someone foreclosed from participating in this planned development,
Absolutely.
and that ultimately we stifle our own objective by doing
So-
that. So
My recommendation would just be leave it like I said it, not try to characterize whether it's residential or non, I mean, I think it's to staff's advantage if people are coming in with MPDs to comply with this plan versus trying to develop under their existing zoning. So I don't think you want to put up roadblocks to that. So this is
Understood.
basically removing a potential roadblock.
the other thing that I would ask, and I don't know that we can probably flesh them all out here, but maybe before this gets to the commission, I mean, I'd like to see some more carrots hung out there for these people. Is there anything else we can do to get a little of the bureaucracy out of their way so that we can facilitate getting this on the fast track?
I mean, we could see what some of the things incentivize, the rezonings or
So
whatnot.
I would tell you that it's a financial incentive, but much of so based on this plan, it looks like a lot of it would be office and industrial, which that has mobility fee incentives already. And there are mixed-use incentives in our mobility fee regulations for mudroom, T&D type requirements. So those incentives already exist. Those are financial incentives, though. Those are not necessarily expedited review type incentives. So I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Things like, you're trying to create, I saw where you're making an exception in the sub-area policy or wherever to allow the V to C ratio of 1.2 because it's vertically integrated mixed use. Can we reduce the requirements for the transportation studies and needs assessments that they need to do in this process?
I believe if it's employment generation, it's exempt
Yeah,
as
it
well.
is. Office and industrial is already exempt from transportation analysis.
Like I said, I don't know that we're going to get all those things here. I hope, like I said, before you get it to commission, what I'd like to see is how to figure out how to get bureaucracy out of the way so that the plan can be accelerated. This is a good-looking plan.
Thank you.
So I do have one more question for Amy, but I'm not sure if you're done.
Yeah.
So Amy, the roads that are shown on this plan, what type of roads are they? Are they collector roads, or are they local roads? I mean, I support the interconnectivity, I'm just trying to figure out what roadway types are they?
I believe Blissfield is currently residential and Monmouth is also, I would anticipate these being collector, to collect internal
Well,
capture.
the reason I'm asking is because
Local,
if
okay.
they're, if
Never
they're
mind.
collector roads, you need to be adding them to our vision map.
Cool.
If they're local roads, you don't, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Nectario Pitos, Planning and Development. The idea is to, on this conceptual plan, include what I, called vision local roads, if you will, where the roads are local and they are on the concept plan in order to illustrate where that connectivity is going to be. So they're local roads.
Okay, that answers my question, then you don't need, if they are, then you don't need to amend our vision map.
I have a related, well, somewhat related.
I'm done, go ahead.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure you were done.
Mhm.
So, and maybe it's something we need to keep an eye on when Joel comes in with the plan, but, obviously if we do any multifamily, it'd be important to make sure that they're able to, Interlaken Road has sidewalks, but I'm not sure what that means with the parcels to the south, and can we get connectivity so people can walk from those apartments over to Odessa Elementary? And that would be my concern, to kind of make sure we can plan for that.
So right now, the proposal for the MPUD for Gallardo is to the south. There is a wetland boundary. However, there is a trail. We have a fully integrated trail system, 12, I believe it's 12 feet in width. So it's going to be a multi-purpose trail from or on the western boundary of that border. So it's going to navigate all the way down to the property line, and then the schools to the south on the other side of the wetland. So we would just need to ensure that that connectivity goes through the southern property that's not a part of this PD. However, the Gallardo property or project is ensuring that the trail system is connected. There's also interconnectivity in between as well of the project to connect to Blissfield. Blissfield will also have a trail system that connects to Blissfield, Old Gun, and then through the Lowe's property to Gun Highway as well. Originally, the trail vision was along State Road 54, but as Joel mentioned, there's some constraints with that. So we kind of navigated that through the property to ensure pedestrians still had that accessibility. It is also golf cart accessible, so we ensured that we captured that as well. And it aligns with the intent to connect that to what will then become the Orange Belt Trail and keep it going through, so.
So they'd be required to do that western trail down to
They are already doing it.
But then how does that get to Interlaken?
We would have to plan that accordingly. I'm not sure what the aerial shows, if there is a connection right now. It looks like there's a right-of-way in place.
Well, it looks like
so we
there's
would have
something,
to-
yeah.
yeah,
And
there's-
obviously, our bus garage is right there.
Right, so, yeah, so we would have to kind of explore that and make sure we can ensure that level of connectivity, but the intent is there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Amy.
Welcome.
No other questions?
The lady that wanted to.
Yeah, we need to hear from the audience. So, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak? You give us your name and address, please.
Thank you, sirs. My name is Gerald Spear. I live on 13232 Blitzfield Road. And everything you said about the small guy is me. I have a 1/3 acre. And if you go through Blitzfield like they're talking about, when I step out my front door, you're going to have to widen Blitzfield. I'll step out my front door into a street. My house is 1,800 square feet, and there's nowhere in this town that I could move that I like better than where I'm at now. Where I'm at now, I got hospitals, I got grocery stores, I'm almost 70 years old, and I'm kind of stuck because it's going to be very hard for me to move. I want to, because it's unbelievable how you're talking about doing this project. It's too late. It's already started, this project. In front of me, I have a Dunkin' Donuts almost right in front of me on 54. And when they were building that whole section for almost a year, all that dirt went right in my window, in my house. It was terrible for a year. Nobody said anything. Nobody apologized for it. I suffered tremendously. Now, every day, I must get 100 cars a day or more, and they can testify back there, the people that live in that area. On Old Gun, that road is terribly overburdened. And wait till they build the Lowells. It's going to be even worse. And then they say, and I know that there's been people, it's already put in, that they're saying Old Gun, that Lowell's only wants to make the road halfway or partially down. That road is terrible shape. That road needs to be built all the way down to Interlaken. So I've got all that traffic hitting me, the dirt coming in, what do I got to look forward to? Where am I going to find an 1,800 square foot house? It's going to be on anything in a nice area that they're going to want to pick, because my house is going to be the park. So what are they going to do to develop this first? What are they going to do? They're going to develop this and then come to me and say, hey, look, your land's you only got this little tiny section. It's only worth this. So I'm going to end up living in some trailer? I put everything I had when I retired, I put everything I had into this house and paid cash for it 19 years ago. I love the area. In front of me, there was woods. Any one of you, I could show you where wild turkeys come in my front yard. It's the greatest place you could ever want to live. Herb, one of the gentlemen back there, on one side of me and Lynn on the other side. Herb has 12, Lynn has 10. And they have wild deer coming through. Greatest place in the world. And I'm going to lose this. I know I'm going to lose it. But what worries me the most is if you can't stop this, because it's already stopping. They've already put the school bus repair shop place in there. They got Duke Energy in there. They've got, in front of me, you've got that, where it used to be a house and all those beautiful trees and animals. Now it's just a parking lot to put stuff. And I have to live with all this noise that's going on 54. Boom, 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 boom. Your cars coming down 54. You know, what am I supposed to do? These people are talking about, and they're telling me, well, we'll do something because they'll have to have a park in here. Yeah, offer me $50,000 for a little piece of land, because when they take the property away from me to put Blitzfield in, what am I supposed to do? Can I show any of you guys that exactly where my house is on this little spot? Would you like to, any of you like to see?
Sure, we'd be glad to receive and file. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
You need to take it to the secretary over here. Have a motion?
Sir, just to be clear, you drew your location on the map?
This is me.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, did I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, go ahead, sir.
It's what's happening is terrible. They're talking about they're going to make this. Yeah, they're going to make it light industrial. They have to. You got Duke Energy, the school bus. They've got all this stuff already started. And yeah, you got Herb and you got Lynn and you got these other people. It's got nobody there has a third of an acre but me. I have the smallest amount of property, I think, in the 20-something people that's involved in this. And I am the one that's going to suffer badly. I think about how when I'm past 70 and all this stuff happens, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to end up in a trailer someplace because I'm going to get messed over really bad? It's already happened. Who up there would like to live with nothing but sand coming in your house for over a year? Because they did everything legal. Now I have this white fence that they don't keep clean. The grass grows up behind it. It looks horrible. Who wants to live like that? I don't. But I'm stuck. There's nobody here. And again, not to repeat myself, if any of you saw Gun Highway and how to get out of that area, you pretty much need to get the gun, especially if you want to go west towards the water. If you want to go that way, that gun highway, when Lowell's comes in there, you know, I bet you right now, if a county inspector would inspect the land that's where they're gonna build the Lowell's, where the old flea market is, they would cite them, because I bet there's buildings gonna fall down in there, and all they do is put no trespassing sign to protect people. Nobody's done nothing about that. Lowell's, so you got the road that's messed up, that Lowell's only has to pave 2 blocks down the road.
Sir, I'm trying to give you as much time as I can, but other people want
Okay,
to
thank
speak.
you, sir.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Mhm.
Any questions before he sits down?
Has someone said they're going to take right-of-way and take your property?
How can they not?
I don't know, I'll be asking staff
If
when
you,
they
if
come
you see
back.
Blitzfield Road, it goes all the way through.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else, John? Okay. Thank you very much. And I think, who else would like to speak?
I'm sorry.
Please come forward.
Hard of hearing.
I was saying, who else would like to speak? Thank you.
I've not been sworn in.
I know, I watched you. I need your name and address, and then I need to get you sworn in.
My name is Virginia C. Lowe. I live at 13229 Interlaken Road.
Okay?
Odessa.
And raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Thank you.
We have a little over a half acre, and we've been planning this property for a couple of years now. It was a mess. It was like a junkyard. So we had to demo stuff, we cleaned it up, and it's a beautiful piece of property, ornamental trees, and we're putting a log cabin. But I haven't finished complying with all the permit requirements. I'm on the last stretch of it. So I'll probably have my permit hopefully by the end of March, and they will deliver the cabin by the end of March. Now, my property is the southwest corner in the gray area, the EG. I'm directly next to the school bus depot,
Okay.
and like
Down
I
where,
said.
down where it says Interlochen, right down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a beautiful pond directly across the street where I'm gonna have an A-frame window pointing right at it. And we've been planning this for years, and now this is happening. And they're gonna have a commercial that's not in a residential area, the gray. This,
Okay.
what they sent me is the subject property, but am I gonna have a problem, or am I grandfathered in?
Yeah, you're gonna be, you can, as I understand it, you can still use the property just as you had planned. You don't have to opt in.
Okay.
Is that correct? Am I correct?
Everybody that's called me interested in the property, they're not interested in the brand-new barn we put up and the log cabin.
Right.
And the
Yeah,
amount of money I invested
you're not,
in the
you're
property
not,
and
com-
the
you're not
cabin.
compelled, you're not compelled to do a commercial or industrial use there. You can do what you had planned.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, come on up. State your name and address, please.
Good
And have you been sworn?
My name is Mark Blanton. I have not been sworn in.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
What's your address, Mark?
My address is 19508 Pine Valley Drive, Odessa.
Okay.
And I am a property owner, have a few properties in this area, including the one that was asked to be added. So in full transparency, and the one that the gentleman, Mr. Gerald, had commented about. In a couple of other parcels in this area. I have a few questions. I know only I have three minutes. Through a few concerns, I should say, to echo what Gerald had said, to echo what some of the other neighbors have maybe not said out here, but to me. First is it feels a little bit like the plan picks and chooses winners and losers by the color pattern. Second would be infrastructure. It was commented about what happens with the Lowe's. The Lowe's currently has a plan to widen Old Gun Highway, which is a failed road. If you drove down it, it's worse than a dirt road. and they're only planning to widen it down to Interlaken, or halfway down to Interlaken Road. It's 18 feet wide, and a ton of traffic is going to come from the Lowe's, including semi-trucks, because it's right at their semi-dock, and they're going to go down Interlaken Road to get onto Gun Highway because it's easier than getting onto 54. There's going to be accidents. There's already, as many have commented, there's already a lot of traffic there. That needs to be looked at and addressed. I would ask the county to consider widening the road if they're not going to make Lowe's do that. I think the county should do that, and the county should add sidewalks. As well, Blissfield, it was not mentioned, Blissfield is a dirt road. It's one of the few, but it's a dirt road currently. Monmouth Drive is mostly a dirt road. Those need to be looked at, improved. I don't know what the widths are, the right-of-ways. Part of my concern is where's the 12-foot beltway or bicycle lanes going to come through? Who's going to suffer? To Gerald's point, those are all things that I think the owners of the properties would like to know. Is there going to be a taking of land for green space, for bicycle paths, for landscape buffers? I would, if I have a moment longer, I'd like to make some suggestions. One would be to make the EG, right now it says no residential would be allowed. I would request that EG is good. I think it's a great thing, but I think more of a new urbanism, like let's allow for some residential mixed use there too, if that would help people, because right now the line cuts through the Heap's own 12 acres, cuts right through the middle of their property, so half can be an industrial park and half can be multifamily. That doesn't really make sense. I would offer as an incentive to everybody to agree to this plan, maybe to allow for a mixed use, for an application of some sort of a mixed use within that EG timeframe. And as I also mentioned, I would ask that consideration would be given for improving the road system in there along Old Gun Highway in particular, as that is a failed road. 2 cars cannot pass on the road without somebody going into the grass currently, and it's full of potholes, and it's worse than the dirt roads of Monmouth and Blissfield. Anybody that's driven down there can attest to that. Thank you for your time, and you know, the other incentives, making it easier process to go through this MPUD process. That can certainly take a lot of time and energy, and anything you can do there would be, I think, probably appreciated by all parties down the road. And obviously, nobody's forced to do anything different from what's there now, but it's a good option. Maybe it's 15 years down the road, maybe it's a lot sooner than that. So thank you for your time.
Curiosity, you said the map kind of picks winners and losers. From your perspective, what are the winners and what are the losers?
Well, I think the winners are the ones that right now, the current situation is, if you've got the EG is target industry only, I don't know exactly what that definition is, but it's light industrial commercial. Obviously, you get a Moffett, hey, that's great. That makes everybody's value go way up. But the reality is right now, a whole lot of multifamily is getting developed in a whole lot of places. That's probably the most, and I'm a broker, commercial realtor as well. Multifamily land is the most valuable land. So in a sense, you're picking, well, who's going to be the winner here is the people that are in the pinkish color. In the immediate, because there's demand for that, and the price is really high. And those that are in the EG, you got to find the right target industry in order to make that make sense. So having some sort of a blend of that, or some new urbanism kind of a feel where you've got a live, work, play environment, at least, where there can be some office and some commercial and some residential multifamily mixed in with that, I think that would be a win for everybody. That's what I mean by winners and losers.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am? Or sir, I can't tell. Can't see that far.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
So we have your name and address, please.
My name is Lynn Zablo. I live at 13220 Blissfield Road, Odessa. I'm concerned that if they do this, that we're gonna get charged to fix the roads and improve the roads. And I don't feel that it should be put on the homeowners that are living there and staying agricultural or whatever we are, for the businesses to come in and pave the road and put the money on us.
Okay.
That's my
We'll
major
get- We'll get an
concern.
answer for you on that one.
And the other is that, are they gonna force us to put roads through our property if we're not in the plan? Can they come in and say, we gotta put a road through your property?
Well, if there's a road there now, they have.
No, I'm talking about where there isn't a road, where they're proposing a road.
Well, if they do, they have to pay for your property.
But are we gonna be forced to sell it at the time that they wanna
You
do
know,
it?
they're eminent domain, that's always been the case. If there's a public need for a roadway, they have the right to come in and have your property as.
Well, that's just the second roadway that they want. There's already one there that they can
I
do.
can't answer that
Let me just
question.
tell you though, that in general, the county would not usually use eminent domain for local roadways. So,
And are they gonna try and make us pay for their planning that they wanna do?
The
The
planning.
homeowners? Are we gonna have to pay to improve that road because they wanna put a development in?
so the pavement of the roads is generally done by the development that's coming in adjacent to those roads. I'm not sure if I understand the specific concern, though. Are you saying outside of where the development, so for example, Mr. Two's client, when he comes in, the county would generally make him pave the roads that are needed for that development. So as development comes in, Brad's team makes them pave the roads that are needed for access to that development. But, so I'm not sure if I understand the question.
There's Blissfield Road. It's gonna have to be paved if they wanna use it to go in and out of the
Most
development.
likely, that would occur when development adjacent to Blissfield Road or that needs Blissfield Road comes in for approval, then Brad would make them do that. Is that
Okay, so
accurate,
the
Brad?
homeowners aren't gonna get charged on their taxes to do it?
Well, okay, I'm not gonna tell you that, because there is a proposed MSTU that's gonna be voted on by the board that is gonna potentially add ad valorem taxes to pay for roads, but that's on a countywide basis.
Countywide.
And could some of that money be used to pave these roads? That, yes, that is a possibility. I'm not gonna tell you your taxes aren't gonna go up, because there already is a proposal, but that's not just your neighborhood, that's almost the entire county that may have additional taxes to
I'm
pay
just
for.
worried if they come in to put a road in to get to that development, they're gonna charge all the homeowners on the street to get to it.
So, the county has an existing system called a paving assessment program, or PVAS, which there are certain roads that get paved that way currently. However, the Board of County Commissioners is moving away from that process and creating this countywide MSTU that will be used, some of that money will be used to pave local roads, possibly even these local roads. So that would be the primary funding source, in addition to whatever developers have to do as part of the development approval process. Am I making sense? I don't think, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think staff is intending to impose any special assessments that are unique to this, to the property owners in this
That's what I'm.
planned development.
That's
I
what
guess
I'm
I'll let
concerned
Terry
about.
or say if I'm saying that wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct.
David, this is Asin. Amir has also reviewed the traffic study for the comprehensive plan. I was looking at the timing and phasing report as the development goes through the various phases. So right now they're with phase 1, then there's a phase 2 and 3. They will improve Blissfield Road. They will also connect to Interlochen. They will improve that segment of the road that connects to Interlochen. And then the improvements will go further along Interlochen at the intersection of Gunn Highway. So these are all tied to the development levels. As they come in, they will be connecting roads, they will be building these roads and making improvements.
So that's consistent with what I said, I think, that the developers are gonna build
Correct.
these roads. The one exception would be, there could be some gaps that developers don't build, that at some point in the future, the county might need to come in and pave them. But I don't think the county would be intending to do special assessments for that purpose. It likely would be part of this countywide MSTU.
Terry, did you want to add something?
Well, I think in short, what I was going to just say is that future infrastructure will be the responsibility of future developers.
That's what I needed
That's
to know.
this is a vision plan that's shown on the overhead here. So as David and Essen have been alluding to, as developments come in, they're going to pay for their impacts
That's what I
and
needed to
extend
know.
the
Yeah,
roads that they
the only exception is what I said, which is, and this is why I asked the question early on, what kind of roads are these going to be? If they're local roads and they're unpaved, there is a possibility that the new MSTU could be used for that purpose, and the new MSTU will be on all county tax bills, not just yours. It would be on the whole county, except for those
And that's not,
neighborhoods that maintain their own roads, but
that's not specific to this development.
that's not
either.
specific to
Yeah.
this development, but I want to be honest with her, because she said, am I going to be taxed for these roads? And indirectly, the MSTU will be adding some taxes to all tax bills, so.
They wouldn't have to improve it if we weren't doing any kind of development, though.
Yeah, this tax that David's talking about is going to apply whether this development happens or not.
But
Right.
development can still happen in that area, with or without this plan. This is a scheme to better plan the development so that we don't have a mishmash of stuff pop up.
I understand.
But there's nothing there today that stops the land from being developed or anyone from coming in and asking for a rezoning.
I understand that. That's not.
And those roads
what I
would be
was at-
impacted if someone came and did that. This is trying to create something that's cohesive.
She just doesn't want to pay for a road that's being used for somebody else.
understand it.
Yeah.
The other thing I will tell you, if it gives you any comfort, is even, this project, I don't think is proposing any kind of financial plan. Is that correct? Okay.
correct.
So, but even in those projects where we did impose a financial plan, such as in Pasadena Hills and Connected City, only those landowners who opted in to get more higher entitlements were subject to paying higher assessments or fees.
Okay.
The landowner that just stayed the way they were and didn't seek any increase in entitlements was not subject to any increased assessments or fees.
All right, thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, was there anyone else? Knew I should have kept quiet.
Was he the one that was uncertain earlier?
No, I still got my eye on him.
I know who I am anyway. I'm the old guy who will sign the papers.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the true self you got?
Yes, I do, sure do. I do a lot of swearing too. So anyway,
That's what I heard.
I'm Herbert Heap, live at 2131 Old Gun Highway. That is, if you come out of the Gun Highway Flea Market, look southwest, we got the property from Blissfield Road to Old Gun Highway, got a right-of-way going out to Interlake, excuse me a minute. Got up here in a hurry.
Take your time, take your time.
Okay. Been in the hospital since December 19th and can't hardly keep up.
You need a chair, sir?
No, sir, I'll make it.
Okay.
But Blissfield Road, okay, you see, the guy on the end of it there, that somebody just come up here and was talking about, bought the land, he owned the front there, then he bought the Pasco County School Board, had a big hunk of property, and they sold off the surplus, so he bought it. And Pasco County lets him close Blissfield Road. So now he owns all this property from 54, clear back across, and he closed Blissfield. Now, I don't understand why Pasco County let him close that, to start with. And then the other thing I was gonna bring up, it shows Monmouth, they're gonna put a road clear across. Well, I own all that property, and there's a road going east-west there. That road's gonna go through my house. I've been there 51 years. December 1971, I've been there. Used to be an old chicken ranch, and according to somebody was up here speaking, I'm in a blighted area. I'm part of the blight, but that's okay. I've been there, been happy there. And we're the ones that got all the deer out back and the turkeys. I know we're not gonna stop development. One of the other problems was the Lowells. They're gonna put it in, that's fine, put it in. but they only show they're gonna do Old Gun Highway down to Blissfield and about another 200 feet, because they got a water retainment pond there, and they're gonna quit. Well, if you go out, you all need to take a ride out on Old Gun Highway and get an education there on what a road is, or what a bad road is. It's probably built in the 30s, probably built in the 40s. Terrible road. But anyway, they need to take and do Old Gun Highway all the way through, because since they put in the Dunkin' Donuts and they're gonna put that storage garage in there, which Mark just talked about, our traffic just picked way up. I put a trail camera out one day. I wanted to see what was coming through my front gate at night, some sort of animals. I picked up from Friday night to Sunday morning, 380 vehicles went through. I didn't know the camera was gonna pick them up. But, you know, we're getting a lot of people out there, and it's coming. As a matter of fact, the original Mr. Starkey that owned the Starkey Ranch came over one day because we had peach trees. He says, you know, I never knew there was any peach trees in my neighborhood. And he sat there and talked to us a while, but sort of like to go back to his old days, but it's not going to happen. I'd like to see y'all think about this before, just like this thing on Blissfield Road. You know, you let a property owner close the road and take the property, and now there's a road going through there. Who's going to pay for it? Pasco County going to have to buy it? Why'd you let him take it to start with? Y'all understand what I'm saying? Got any questions?
Any questions?
I know I'm not clear, but I'm a little tired. I've been, like I said, I've been in the hospital since the 19th. My wife's been in a long-term hospital, and I been with her every day since.
Well, that's hard. That's hard to do. I know that. I've been through that before with people, so.
Yeah, she's up at, it's called Advent Health Connerton, which is north of, y'all know where it's at.
Yeah.
So I just come from there.
Yeah, it's a good ride from here.
Yes, sir, and I'm getting tired, but anyway, we've been out there, 51 years, and a lot of changes in 51 years.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, if you don't have a question for me, I'll get out of your way. And
any questions?
I think if you don't understand what I'm saying, I can understand that too, because I'm not.
I think we understand what you're saying, you know.
No? Had enough of me?
No. We'll never get enough of you. So.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, we appreciate it. Okay, I think we've given everybody a chance to speak.
There's one guy that was still on the fence.
I don't know, and he's still here, still with us. Yeah, so Amy, you want to try to answer some of those questions? I know
I'll do
you
my
made an
best.
extensive list.
Sure. With respect to the roadways, the dash lines are conceptual. The intent of the planned development is to establish an internal pedestrian connected network. So as some of the concerns were expressed, and as you all already addressed, once the developers come in and rezone, then they would be bound to the PD. But anybody who is as is will be deemed consistent with the planned development, and there shouldn't be any impact to them as well. However, I do have a question, if I may, to one of the speakers who came up, Mark Blanton, because he is actually the property owner that is on red in your project.
Sure.
Because if the EG is not what he is wanting and he would rather be mixed use, as of yesterday he confirmed EG, maybe this idea would be more suitable for the mixed use to have that residential component. So perhaps we can hash that out.
All right.
EG would be fine. I just asked for consideration for all the others, because mine's already developed. We're not putting multifamily on it. But for all the other, the benefit of the other property owners, they, from what I've heard.
Sir, you
Yeah.
really need to come up to the mic if.
Yeah,
you
if you're going to
proper
speak,
testimony.
you really need to, we can't get it on record if you're not speaking in the microphone. You can
Yes,
repeat
so
everything you
I'm
just
sorry
said.
about that. So, no, for the property that I asked to be considered, it's already basically developed as commercial, so we're not planning to put multifamily on it, so I declined that. Thank you for offering. It's really for the benefit of all the other property owners that were in the EG that I know I've talked to in the past to make it kind of easier and I think more attractive, incentivize them. And we do have one other parcel that does fit within that EG. I think it would make sense to allow for some mixed-use component or some trade-off within the EG for some multifamily.
Okay. Thank you.
Victoria Spitos, Planning and Development. Throughout the planning process of this project, we've been clear that an employment generating or employment village was the goal of the Odessa Town Center. It's creating a space where jobs can exist locally and people can live near to them. The EG Village, I'm going to flip back really quick. The EG Village, as was noted, is this village here. But you'll notice an important distinction when I go back to the aerial. Pay attention to where this division here is. These are the property lines between the commercial uses or C2 uses that are along Gun Highway, what's behind them, and then what's happening in this area here. And why we identified this particular geography for EG. And the reason for that was because you have a lot of open, undeveloped land area. I lost my little pointer. He always disappears when you need him. Well, anyway, you see the buildings that are fronting along Gun Highway. Then you can identify the property line just to the west of them. And then the intensity of development begins to fall away significantly as you move further west from Gun Highway until finally you get into some areas that are less developed. Of course, this area is also, where's the map? Res 9. So it's sort of a higher density residential future land use. And so we've converted higher density future land use, residential density future land use, to EG because of the open spaces and the ability to, those lands have a better chance of attracting employment generators onto them because it'll be easier for them to develop on, so to speak, virgin parcels, though they're not entirely virgin because there's houses there today and whatnot, and everybody has a continued right to exist there as is. But this is a long-term vision. So in the event that at some point in the future, residents decide to sell their properties, the redevelopment potential is made greater.
Terry, just out of curiosity, and I've already said I like the plan. Why PD rather than town center or employment center, the other land uses that are in the comp plan?
I think we wanted to respect the existing landowners as much as possible because some of the other future land use categories carry with them specific land use ratios. And in the PD, we could craft policies that would respect the existing owners if they wanted to continue to stay in place for as long as they wanted until such day that they decided they wanted to go on to another location, if they do that.
All right. Amy, anything else?
Unless
Thank
you
you,
all
Terry.
have any extra questions for me, that is it.
Any questions? Okay. All right. If not, open to comments from the dais or a motion? Or both?
Well, I got ahead of myself earlier. I've already indicated I like the plan. I would move to approve it with the sub-area policy being changed to indicate that they don't need the minimum acreages for an MPUD zoning so that we can make it easier. With that,
Well, does your motion also include adding
yes, and adding the gentleman's property
at EG?
to the EG Village, Mr. Blanton? With that, I just want to let the gentleman know that it's got a third of an acre. I understand. I've been here since I was 6 years old. The corner of Gun Highway and 54. And my vision was cows. That's all it was cows. But that's not what it is today. the Starkey properties are developed, isn't there a Publix on the opposite side of the intersection now?
There
There's
is.
another Publix just down the road. I'm not shocked that there's going to be a Lowe's where the flea market is. This is just, I've been here 50-plus years, too. And 54 is not what 54 was when I was a child.
Two lanes.
There's nothing we're going to do to stop this. And I'd rather have a good plan and a cohesive plan than for us to repeat some of the sins of the past that happened along US 19 through the west side of the county. So this one I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This is some good planning.
Okay, anybody else? With that, I assume you're making a motion?
Yes, that was a motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion of the motion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries.
So your next and last item is APC 10.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Ed Zodian. I'm a planner with Long Range. We'll wait for the folks.
Have somebody speaking at the podium? I'm sorry, could you start again?
Mr.
Chairman, he's asking about one of the documents that was received in the file. I think there was a second copy of it.
Yeah, I thought you said you had extra copies.
Maybe there's still
There's
over
one
here.
copy over here.
Okay.
I don't know if this is what he's looking for.
All right, why don't you go right ahead then?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Ed Zodian. I'm a planner with Long Range. For this matter, you're sitting as the LPA, by the way. The matter before you is a small, excuse me, a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, columns at Bear Creek. Now, you'll note it had a CPAL number on the slide. However, the rationale for that was that it was initially submitted as a large scale. We met with the developers and their agents and negotiated the item down to a small scale. So it is in the central market area. As you can see, it's east of Little Road and south of State Road 52 and west of Moon Lake Road. And I apologize now, I noticed that this was the old slide. It is an error. However, we're amending the future land use from Res 6 to Res 12. The ROR is not being addressed, and the memorandum describes that correctly.
Okay.
The proposed development is to add 120 multifamily units. Therefore, it would be a total of 168 units. The resolution in this case is to amend the future land use map 215 and sheet 12, excuse me, sheet 11, and there is a proposed MPUD that's running concurrently. The following comprehensive plan amendment is consistent with the following policies. Initially, with Res 12, the intent is to recognize those areas that are suited for single-family and multifamily residential development at a gross maximum density of 12 units per acre. The transitional land use table does reflect that Res 12 is consistent with the ROR, which is to the north, and the Res 6, which surrounds it. This submission is also consistent with HSG 112, providing that it's going to provide additional types of multifamily units in the area, which is an area of growth. Again, the site location, and we get if I can, I'll ask if there are any questions. We are recommending approval. It is consistent with the area. Are there any questions?
Sure.
Yes.
You said right at the outset, you negotiated with the applicant to reduce the project size to make it a small-scale plan amendment rather than a large-scale plan amendment. Why?
We didn't think it was consistent that they were trying, when they were attempting to develop both phases of the columns of Bear Creek, that's this 38-acre tract, 34-acre tract and the tract below it. We thought that was inconsistent with the area and that there wasn't a transition, a orderly transition with respect to density. So we thought that this one tract did comply with the transition rules by virtue of having ROR and then the Res 6 around it.
Can you put the map back up? I'm just trying to.
Sure. Bear with me here. Let me see if I can. Well. All right. On this map here, the pink area is the area that's being submitted today as a small scale. The large scale also included that tract of land below it. So we didn't think that taking this all to Res 12 was consistent with the area.
Okay. And that remains Res 6?
Yes, sir. And it is part of the MPUD.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, no more questions, John?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here in the audience that's here to speak on this? All right, would you like to come forward? If you could
My
state
name
your
is
name
Ron
and address.
Oswald. I live at 11833 Bristol Lane, Newport Richey, Florida. I'm the Vice President of Bayonet Point Village Co-op. We have really only two concerns. The first is the water drainage. We want that away from our park.
Let me just, before you go any further, have you been sworn, sir?
Yes, I have. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We want the drainage to go away so it doesn't flood our park. And it already has in the back of the pink there is a lake back there now. So anyway, but that's one of our major concerns. Our other concern is the increase in traffic. And as the gentleman there said, things has changed in Pasco County. I remember when 52 was one lane each way. Now we have thousands of cars a day. Now, if you look at the commons, they are between two storage lots where they come out. The boats, the trailers, the campers, whatever's in the storage lot comes out to 52. They have to make a right turn, come down in front of Bayonet Point into a U-turn to go back to the west. We have to wait sometimes 5 to 7 minutes to get out, to get across the road, because when the traffic gets done coming east and west, we have to wait for the traffic coming out of the columns to do a U-turn so they can go do their business, which, like I said, I don't think anybody in the park has any problem with the columns. They've been quiet, good people over there, not a problem. Our biggest problem is we'd like to have a light either put at our entrance, or we would like to have the road in front of the columns opened up so they can go straight across and they can do all the turning. That's all we're asking for. And, with 150 homes going in there, that's going to create approximately 225 cars. Put another 225 cars turning to come back to go east down the Little Road or the Publix. It's a great danger. We've had several of our community residents get killed out on 52. It's not the same as it was years ago. And I appreciate him saying that. And I just want you to take all this into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and your patience. Is there anyone else? Okay, I guess not. Oh, there is. Okay.
Shelby Fuente. I'm with Stantec Consulting Services, and we are representing the owner of the columns at Bear Creek for this,
Great.
and I have been sworn. I do just kind of want to address some of the comments that have been brought up today. So we did initially submit this application as a large-scale application. The columns at Bear Creek MPUD, it consists of 2 parcels, which is currently 58.25 acres. That proposal was requesting both of those parcels to go to a Res 9 to kind of achieve that density that we are looking to accomplish. But after kind of talking with staff, then that's kind of where some of the negotiations came in to better implement a transition of density. So instead of going Res 9 on both parcels, then we changed the application to only be amending the northernmost parcel, so the one that we have today, and that is only 37.78 acres. So that is going to a Res 12. Let's see. We have had conversations with Wayne and Ron, so the gentleman that just spoke. So we will be working with them throughout the MPUD phase. We're going to meet with them to kind of better understand some of their concerns on this project and look to incorporate those within the MPUD when we can. Stormwater, then we currently do have plans for those to be located in the southwest corner. So that is the opposite side from the Bayonet Point development. And also for transportation, then we have already had a pre-application meeting with FDOT to address any concerns with density and access. Do you have any additional questions for me?
I'd just like to point out to the gentleman, the stormwater's going in the southwest corner.
Yes.
The natural lay of the land
Mhm.
out there is that direction, so that's away from the park.
Right. There's 2 category 2 wetlands in that area, so it kind of helps support them in that way.
And have you looked into the prospect of getting a light?
No, sir, we have not.
Okay, are you
And
willing
that-
to look in that direction?
That's something that we are in discussions with FDOT on, so we are taking their notes from that application and seeing what SR 52 would require in that area.
Okay, what position does the county take on that, Denise or David, either one of you? As far as traffic flow and such?
Well, it would have to meet warrants, and it has to meet spacing.
Spacing, you got one at Summer Tree, what
Yeah.
used to be Paradise Point.
And one at Chicago, right? to the
So
west.
this is something that's typically looked at the MPUD stage as part of the timing and phasing or access management analysis. I assume that MPUD, this is going to be an MPUD?
It is, there is a
So
companion.
that MPUD will likely look at that issue, and if a signal is either warranted or likely to be warranted, the conditions of approval will address the requirement to install that signal.
Okay.
So it's typically dealt with at the MPUD stage.
Since
So
he
you might
brought it
wanna
up, I
hold
just wanted to make sure that he.
So, I mean, this gentleman may want to
Yeah,
monitor the issue and show up when the MPD comes here, because that's where that question will likely be answered.
okay, great.
Also, Mr. Chairman, the TNA was conducted in the development, and the road system complies. There's not an issue.
Yeah, but to be clear, transportation needs assessment is only looking mostly at the generalized capacity of 52. It's not looking at access to 52, which that is looked at the MPD stage.
Right, right. Thank you, David. I want to make sure that, there's an opportunity
So,
for.
so staff will look at it, but this is too early in stage of a development to look at it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You represent the applicant?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm talking about,
I represent Bayonet Point Park, I'm the treasurer there. I just would like to add a few.
well, I've already called for, I've already called for people to come up here from the other side. What do you want to do, David?
It's up to you, Mr. Chair, but if you do, you have to give the applicant rebuttal again.
Yeah,
So, but it's up to you.
all right. There's only one person? Okay,
I'll make it very quick.
okay. Otherwise, it could go on forever, you know?
I haven't been sworn
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, self you got?
in. My name is Wayne Lowe. I also live in the Bayonet Point Village. The traffic assessment that we're seriously concerned about, there is parking for trailers and boats and stuff that has just went in, that is brand new and hasn't been used yet because it's not finished. So you have that traffic added to, and that also comes out on the columns exit. So that, all that traffic is another added addition besides the impact of the new residents.
Okay,
If you can also consider that. Thank you.
thank you very much. Any comment on that, the applicant? Does the applicant have any comment on that? Okay. All right. I think we've heard everybody. Any questions up here, any comments? Not, I'll hear a motion.
A motion that we approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion of the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, that it?
That was the last item.
Denise? Okay, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Third.
Aye.
Done.